I'd like to call the March 19, 2013 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order, and if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And before I give the invocation, I would ask that everybody pull out your phone and silence it. We do have a curiosity of what your ringtone is, but we don't want it to interrupt our meetings, and maybe one of your neighbors is speaking to us. So if you'll cut it off or cut it on vibrate, we would be appreciative. Let's pray. God, thank you for each person that lives in Buncombe County. Each person is a unique masterpiece that you created, nurtured, and gave a specific and special purpose. We're so grateful for the diverse and individual characteristics that each one of us has. We know you love each one of us in a manner we can't even comprehend or imagine. Thank you for that love and never-ending concern about our safety, welfare, and happiness. Teach us to love all others, for you are love. Thank you for showing us that there's no fear in love, and that love casts out all fear and disrespect. Thank you for these men and women that make up our county commission. Each one has a special contribution to our mutual efforts to make Buncombe County the best place we can. Thank you for their selfless actions, time, energy, and leadership, and use us on a daily basis. Give us the perspective to make decisions that are pleasing to you and our community. Amen.
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 In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by this commission, it's the duty of every commissioner to avoid both actual and apparent conflicts of interest. Does anyone know of any known or possible conflict of interest in regard to any matter coming before our board?
No.
No.
All righty. Let's see. Actually, could I make we have public comment next. If it's all right with the board, let's take up that motion to continue at this point, and so we'll be able to tell people whether we're going to have the, would that be acceptable? I said after proclamations, but actually this would be a better time to do that. Is that all right with the board? Okay. Commissioner Belcher has made a motion to continue the Diversity and Inclusion Committee report on domestic benefits, domestic partner policy. Is that right?
Yes, I would like to hear on the respectful workplace policy and make a motion to continue to have more input from the community on the domestic partner policy.
All right. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Belcher, a second by Commissioner Fryar. Is there any discussion?
Well, the only thing I can say on the second to what we've done is we're looking at giving benefits to people, and we're all people. But as long as I've been looking at the county stuff from the outside in before I came on this board, we have people working in this county. It's called full-time part-time full-time jobs. And I know of one young man that's been there for 3 years. He has 2 children and a wife, and he has no insurance whatsoever with Buncombe County, and they cannot even go across the street to our little health clinic and pay the $5. So, you know, that's the good way to bring this forward so that we can see what we have with the people that we have now that actually physically work for us and see how many is there. Secondly, we don't know if we have any money to be able to do this with, because we haven't been to retreat. We don't know what the reval's doing. There's things that we want to do for everyone, but we honestly have to look and say, can we do this to the taxpayers? Possibly have to run the taxes up. That's everybody's vote will be whatever it is. But when we have employees, full-time employees basically, they work 40 hours, they get a check, and they have no benefits, why should somebody outside be able to get benefits? And that's basically the way that I look at this issue.
Okay, any other comments on the motion to continue? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to continue, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
The motion is denied. Commissioner Belcher, King, and Fryar for. Jones, Gant, Newman, and Frost against. So we will have the discussion on both the workplace
Respectful workplace policy.
respect for workplace policy and the domestic partner benefit. So that does affect your public comment, which is next on our agenda. Let me tell you, so we're going to have public comment on the domestic partner benefits and the respect for workplace ordinance when we take up the matter. So during this public comment, we're not going to be recognizing people to speak on those issues today. Right now, you will get to speak when the matter is brought up before on the regular agenda. Okay? So our policy on yes,
Question,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Will they speak after they actually hear the presentation? They
Yes.
would speak after, so they have all that information before they would stand and speak, because some of the new information might be revealed to them that maybe they didn't read or they didn't click on the right link or something, but they would be able to get all the information before they spoke.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Is
Okay.
that's what I envisioned for the board. Is that what the board? Yes, so we're going to have the presentation by the Diversity Committee. We'll take some questions. Then we'll have the public comment on the two ordinances. We're going to have separate votes on them, one for the respect for workplace ordinance, and then we'll have a discussion and the same thing on the domestic partner benefits ordinance. Okay, thank you. The time limit for any public comment to our board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave your questions along with your name, address, email, and phone number with the county manager. Commissioners are not expected to comment on matters during public comment. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of the Commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire Commission. Any polling of board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the Commission are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and to be respectful of everyone in the room. And I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that during our public comments on the issues before us tonight, because there's a lot of strong feelings about what we're going to discuss tonight, and we're going to be ladies and gentlemen tonight, and I'm going to call you if you're not. Either side of it. People have legitimate, strong opinions about this, and we're going to respect everyone's right to get up to that microphone and tell us what they think, what they like, what they don't like. Any person who interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting. And our Commission reserves the right to deny public address on any subject previously presented to the Board. And again, public comment is for things other than the respect for workplace ordinance, because we're going to let you do that later on, and the domestic partner policy, and the domestic workshop. That's a fourth thing, actually, we're going to talk about. Everybody on the same page? Okay, so public comment on things other than the two items. Yes, sir, Mr. English.
My name's Fred English. I live in East Asheville. Can I not say anything? I cannot be here for the whole meeting. Had a heart attack in December. I was in intensive care over there for 20 days in Mission Hospital, and I can't stay for the whole thing. But all I want to say is...
All right, Mr. English, I'm going to, in my discretion, because of his illness, I'm going to rule that you can speak
because I'm going to leave.
Only for that reason, and the fact that you are someone...
All I want to say is I don't want my taxpayer money going for things like this. 80 years ago, 13 days, I was born in Woodfin. I've been a resident of Buncombe County all my life. I've been all over the world. Everywhere I was, my home was Buncombe County, Asheville, North Carolina. Now I'm almost ashamed to tell anybody I am from Asheville. They say, I don't care what people do. It's none of my business. What you do behind closed doors is your own business. But I don't think I should have to pay for what other people do. Nobody's paying for what I do. I pay myself. And if I live, I said 13 more days, I'll be 80 years old. And nobody's ever given me nothing. And I work for everything I got, and I've got enough to last me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. Any other comments on the public on any matter other than that one? Yes, ma'am. If you'll give your name and where you live.
My name is Mary Standard, and I reside in Montreat, North Carolina. This is my third time before you, and I find myself somewhat surprised to be here. But I would like to update the commissioners and the citizens of Buncombe County on the status of the proposed 200-acre, 90,000-panel solar farm on the Lifeway Ridgecrest property. Much has happened since your last meeting on March the 5th. On Monday, March 4th, Am Energy, acting for Maroon Out LLC of New Mexico, filed for a 15-day delay in the March 27th public hearing on its application to build a $65 million solar farm on the Ridgecrest property. On Wednesday, March the 6th, the Asheville Citizen-Times ran a front-page article, "Plug Pulled on Ridgecrest Solar Project," indicating that Lifeway had informed Am Energy that it was no longer interested in moving forward with the project. On Friday, March the 8th, the North Carolina Utilities Commission issued an order canceling the March 27th public hearing. However, and this is a big however, the application has not been withdrawn, and the Utilities Commission has given Maroon Out an additional 30 days until April 8th to declare its intention to proceed or withdraw its application. As Lifeway Ridgecrest has publicly stated that they are no longer interested in the project, it was indeed surprising that Am Energy asked for additional time rather than asking that its application be withdrawn. Hopefully, we will find out on April 8th just what Am Energy's final decision will be. For as long as the application is still active, while the lights may be dimming on this project, the plug has not been pulled. Either I or another member of Buncombe for Responsible Solar will keep you updated once we know Am Energy's decision to withdraw or proceed. We, as Buncombe for Responsible Solar, do support the appropriate use of alternative energy sources. If solar farms are to play a significant part in decreasing our dependence on fossil fuels, they must be done right, with proper notification of the public, proper site selection, proper feasibility and engineering studies, and proper plans in place to dispose of the solar panels if the project is abandoned for any reason. Thank you again for your interest and your leadership in this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Stan. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Mr. Yalton, and then Mr. Dittmeyer.
Don Yelton. I have mixed feelings as I stand before you. First off, I want to appreciate Chairman Gant the fact that you let Fred English speak. But in doing that, and not letting anyone else speak on that topic, you've set a precedent that public comment is public comment if what you say is what you say you can say, and you can't say anything in public comment that's not been approved to be said in that time and can be said at another time. And I think that is a lot like a lot of things that we do today. Either public comment is public comment, and the citizens can say whatever they want to. I'm also kind of glad because this makes people sit here and hear all the what that goes on before they get to comment. So I have real mixed feelings, but my main concern is about the fact that we now are in a situation, if what you say meets your requirements, is exactly what you say it can be, then we can say it. That's not freedom of speech. That's not what our forefathers fought and died for. And we see it creeping in everywhere. Because in our school systems, you have one day out of the year to distribute Bibles or talk about religion. One day here, one day there. And I feel like, as a little short, fat white guy that's paying taxes, I am the most discriminated person in the world, especially since I have an opinion, and I am known to express my opinion at all times and all places. And I hope you consider what I have said very deeply and not let it be a partisan divide for this board, because I understand in your first meeting you wanted to appear to be unified and actually talk behind doors how you could do that. Well, it's not what you do behind doors that counts. It's what you do in front of the people and in this chamber that lets us have an opinion of each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Dittmeyer. And who wants to speak after Mr. Dittmeyer? Mr. Rice.
Hi, I'm Alan Dittmore of Old 20 in Leicester. I guess what's left on the agenda is Black Mountain Town Square, and I think I remember that being a cost share for restrooms, for public restrooms. And there are issues, mostly in Asheville, with public restrooms, but the issues apply to Black Mountain as well. That is that whether they're worth building or not depends a great deal on the hours and the constituency that they're serving. My position is that public restrooms are primarily there to serve the homeless, that if you own your own restroom, that you don't really need public restrooms very much. Homeless people need public restrooms at night, late at night, very early in the morning when it's dark. So if you're going to slap controls and hours of operations, if they're essentially going to be locked up at night, then that makes them not worthwhile. And it's not worth building them if you're going to lock them up when they're most needed. And the hours of operation were not, I didn't find them in the information. So if they're going to be open at night, then I would support them. If they're not going to be open at night, then they're not there to serve the homeless. And if they're not there to serve the homeless, then they're not worth the money. The other thing I think really has to do with my vote is that I voted, we have social issues coming up, and I held my nose and voted for candidates that opposed my position on social issues because of zoning issues, because the social liberals, were also economic status and controlled my land and made it so, I couldn't park my car or I couldn't build what I wanted, or I had to beg for permission, and deal with the planning office. So I had a real mixed vote. I had a real mixed decision when I voted. It made me a swing voter on the county level. And although I'm a very hardcore social progressive, it didn't make my voting decision easy. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dittmore. Mr. Rice. Who wants to speak after Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If anyone's ever fought for discrimination, you're looking at him. Helping kids for 25 years, special kids, they're the most discriminated population that I know of. Recent laws on the book of North Carolina in the school system was put there because of the discrimination of the children that I'm talking about. In 1975, IDEA, Individual with Disability Education Act, came on board for the education of children to get them out of their homes and in the backwoods where they've been put in houses and not put in schools. And now we've got them in our schools. Now we're having to fight the Discrimination Act against them in the schools. And you talk about the policies where we're talking about bullying and things of that nature. As adults, we can defend for ourselves. But as children, how does that feel when a big adult, a teacher, or someone in the classroom is looking down their nose at you? How can you defend against that, or an adult of any kind? The concern that I have is tonight that the board is going to be hearing about the jail diversion plan. And I've already sent you some emails and some information on SRO, school resource officers, and telling you what the real legitimate legal issue that could possibility be in the works if SROs are not properly trained. And the concern that I have in a larger view is that teachers that are coming on board right now are young teachers that don't have training. They don't have the staff development. I talked with the superintendent just last week, and he said the staff development was one of his biggest issues that he's having concern with. I think we need to talk to the Department of Public Instruction, find out their policy, and make sure, because special education kids is a target for everyone because of their disability. And what I'd like to make sure of, if the county is giving current expense money, which yins do for education, and yins are funding a lot of special education under that umbrella. And I'd like to make sure that our money is going to where that the staff development is being done in the training of officers, and that's another bigger subject. Jail diversion is working good. I've said that to you. But if we don't do it on the beginning end, we're going to be paying for it on the other end, and we don't want to do that. So we got some good things in place, and Mr. Baldwin needs some help with staff development. And whether it's your responsibility or Department of Public Instruction, I'd hope you would support him.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, ma'am. Now, this would be on anything other than the domestic partner and diversity questions. Thank you. And we will hear anything anybody has to say during that when that's brought up by the commission. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you. I would like to ask the commissioners.
Your name and where you're from, please.
My name is Lauren Beal. I live in downtown Asheville. I'm a Buncombe County employee, and I'd like to ask permission from the commissioners. I do respect your mode of organization this evening. However, I am a county employee on duty, and I have to relieve my fellow employees at 5:30. And I was concerned that I would not have an opportunity for public comment if I did not take this opportunity now. May I speak?
I would, at my discretion, I will let her speak. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I would just like to take a moment to remind the commissioners as well as the citizens of Buncombe County present here that today when you speak and vote on the domestic partner policy, that we are not talking about a religious issue. We are not talking about a marriage issue. We are talking about an issue of health and protections and equality and basic human rights for employees and their partners. And if the county would like to keep a quality workforce, then I see it as in the county's best interest to care for that workforce and to care for the health of the individuals living in the homes of the county employees. So that extends to partners of all orientations, including straight couples as well who are not married, who could benefit from this. So I want to remind all of you that that's what is going to be decided, and that's not a religious or marriage issue, simply equality and health. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? Okay, if not, we will again hold open the public comments on the respect for workplace and domestic partner policy that we will take up after a few other items. First order, we need to approve the agenda as it's been amended. Is there a motion to follow the agenda as it has been amended?
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? There's a second by Commissioner Frost. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of following the amended agenda, and that includes passing the consent agenda items. All those in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have good news. We will recognize our favorite sheriff, Sheriff Van Duncan, and I'll ask you to introduce the jail diversion team, and with our great thanks for the good work you're doing.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's great to be here with you. I think this is the first opportunity I've had to address you in the new chambers, and I was so excited, Chairman Gann. I almost wanted to start before you called the meeting to order, but I am very excited about some of the work that we're doing in detention. For about the past 6 years, we started to put a focus for several different reasons in the detention center on jail diversion programs, and they basically centered around the issues of mental health and folks who had addictions issues. And many times those things commingled. They were dual diagnosis. What we began to find out is our jail population was climbing very rapidly. It's the most expensive real estate, it's the most expensive construction that we do in Buncombe County, and we felt that there was probably a better way to better serve the people of the county and also better serve those individuals who had come into the criminal justice system who had mental illness and sometimes being propped up with those addictive type disorders. So we started looking at trying to move them into treatment areas when especially there was a very minor charge, to take the criminal justice piece out of it and try to move them into treatment areas such as drug court, women at risk, and several other components that have been successful for us. We also started to look at the treatment of the individuals while they were in the detention center. One of the things that we did is we started with our crisis intervention training with our detention officers, so they have an empathetic understanding of some of those issues. Now, the main reason for doing that, in my opinion, is it's the right and ethical thing to do. Your detention centers are not set up to house large numbers of individuals with mental illness. Secondly, we also were using bed space up for nonviolent, very minor charges and offenses. So as we started down that road about 6 years ago, we started seeing a lot of positive change in the detention center. And I have staff here with me today, have Amy Griffin from RHA, Captain Bill Sayers, Lieutenant Tony Gould, Major Glenn Matiabas, Rich Munger, and Lieutenant Josh Wilhelm here with me today. And it takes a big team to get this moving. What I would like to end with in the big picture, and then turn it over to some of these individuals to talk in more specific detail, is that being able to take that plan of jail diversion and free those detention spaces up, not only are we doing the right thing, but we also have bed space available to hold federal inmates as well as state misdemeanor confinements, which is a good revenue stream for the county. And we've been able to really emphasize on those things. Now, the problem is in the summer, our regular detention population climbs. So what that means is we have to be very reactive to be able to meet the need of what's taking place and keep those revenue streams there, as well as keep involved in our jail diversion programs. That takes a tremendous amount of leadership because your staff has to be able to change, see those changes coming, be innovative, and be reactive to those things. I'm going to ask Major Glenn Matiabas to come up and talk with you about some of those finer details, and also recognize him for the great job of leadership he's done along with his staff in building that kind of detention staff to be able to meet those changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff. Again, I certainly wanted to go ahead. It doesn't get done by me. It gets done by the people behind me every single day. But I did want to share with you some of the statistics that we do have that has been the success for the detention facility. So I did want to share that with you for just a minute. The first slide you see here, just want to talk about the actual capacity of the jail is actually 604 inmates that we can hold, or 604 beds. But actually, due to staffing, 2 of those units are currently not manned. So that takes us down to about 524. As you can see from the number of bookings that we had, there were actually 14,714, which was ironically a 2.2 decrease from last year. But one of the things I want you to take a look at is the very next stat that we had, which is why RHA is so important to us, and certainly the work that they do for us to free up the jail beds, you'll notice that our average length of stay actually went up 9.5%. It actually went up almost more than a day than it did last year. As far as our cost, it did decrease again because we still had the same amount of money, but we had more inmates, so it kind of splits up that cost to be just a little bit cheaper, and that was $82.72 a day. The thing I want to bring your attention to is the average daily population, as the sheriff spoke about. We anticipate that the number is going to go up in the summer, probably around 528, but the average daily population for this year was 423, which was an increase of 7.3 over last year. It was actually about 23 inmates that was increased. One of the keys is, as you can see, the county inmates that we have, there were 353 that were either state or pretrial, but where the revenue comes in, we had on average 44 federal inmates, which we get $79 a day for each one of those inmates, which on a monthly basis, on one day, that's $3,476 that we make. And then the same thing with the state misdemeanor confinement program, which is the change with the Justice Reinvestment Act, as the sheriff spoke about. And we get $40 a day for them, and that's about $1,040 per day. Altogether for the year, that's about $1.9 million that we make for the county to offset the cost for operating the detention facility. A couple of very, very good notes that we did have on here has to do with the fact of some of the numbers that we do have for the detention facility. As far as with jail health. In FY12, we saw the need to go ahead and get a new service provider that was Transform Health. We actually implemented health exams at the beginning when those individuals got booked in. And the key thing that they had in there, certainly, which was very, very important, is it saved the county over $506,880 for out-of-jail health costs for inmates that we had to go ahead and send on out compared to the previous year. And then also because we were able to free up some of the bed space, as you saw with some of the revenue, last year we were very fortunate. Some of the surrounding counties needed bed space, which we certainly sold that to them for $55 a day, which actually generated another $386,352 of additional revenue above and beyond what we were already making for the federal inmates. So again, with the jail diversion, that was very successful and did help us with that. Mm-hmm. And certainly one of the people that's responsible for that is Amy Griffith, and I'll let her speak about jail diversion.
Thanks, Major. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Will you drive the slide for me?
I can get to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again for hearing us. The slide that you're looking at now talks about our latest recidivism study, which looked at numbers tied directly to the jail diversion and reentry services that we provide in 2012. And if you look down the list, substance abuse case management reentry services targeted 527 individuals, and so that number represents 791 arrests that were prevented. Same with mental health reentry services with 562 individuals served. That was 371 arrests that were prevented. And with our most acute high-need population, that's our jail diversion program with chronically mentally ill individuals. With 23 graduates of that program, tied with the other numbers, we have a total of 1,219 arrests that we were able to prevent booking into our jail in 2012. The next point talks about the amount spent on food costs. Just to break that down a little bit, that's almost 33,000 days in custody that were prevented. With the need for an additional jail on the horizon, potentially costing so much money to the county, again, these numbers equal preventing 90 jail beds from needing to be built, which is, I think, 2 housing units. Correct. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rich Munger. Thank you.
I just wanted to give you an update on CIT, Crisis Intervention Team, and a few of you aren't familiar with it. Just to briefly recap, that's a 40-hour training for law enforcement and how to intervene with persons in a mental health crisis, or what we call a behavioral health crisis. And we began the program a number of years ago, and we've now trained over 200 people. In that little green box, you can see that we've trained not only patrol officers, but we've also trained detention officers, AB Tech, UNCA, 911 operators, and magistrates. We also have implemented drop-off at the Mission Emergency Department, and police officers can bring persons in a mental health crisis to the Mission Emergency Room and just drop them off because we have a full-time deputy there. That saves about an hour per drop-off because the waiting time was upwards of 50 minutes to an hour for an officer to come by and wait for someone to go back and see a doctor. Now they just drop the person off and they're back on the road protecting the safety of our community. We have had no major injuries or deaths since this program was implemented, and prior to its implementation, several years before, we had 2 tragedies in this community where persons in a behavioral health crisis had to be shot because of their behavior and their danger. I wanted to tell you about something that's very, very exciting that you'll be hearing more about, and finish with that. We are going to be one of the first communities in the state of North Carolina to implement CIT training with fire rescue. Now you might ask, well, why are they in the mix here? You train police officers, right, in CIT? Correct. But actually fire rescue has more encounters with persons with mental illness than all of the first responders. And that's because they're the closest. They're often the first ones on the scene. So when we went years ago to explore the possibility of doing this training, we were told it was virtually impossible because fire rescue is on a schedule such that they cannot do a 40-hour training. Well, we went back and put our thinking caps on, and Mona Cornwell, who some of you know at AB Tech, came up with the idea of, well, let's train them online and maybe do a one-day in-person training. And so that's what we're going to do. Starting May 1, we will be doing a 2-hour online training for fire rescue staff and then a one-day in-person training. So I just wanted to finish tonight's little presentation by showing you the introductory video to our online training for fire rescue participants. There we go.
Commissioners, we're very happy with the work that's going on at the detention center. I would like to open this up to questions for you all. We've presented some fairly complex information and sometimes seems maybe a little some clarification on it. So we'd like to give the opportunity to do that if y'all have any questions.
Any questions, commissioners?
I've just got a comment. I want to, there were several of the commissioners that was able to attend your awards banquet recently. It was excellent. It was the first time I had an opportunity to go. I left there feeling wonderful about the team that you have assembled. And I also want to comment on the CIT training. People that know me very, very closely know that there's been some things in my past and some family and some things where being very caring and giving them hope is important. I salute you for what you're doing. Just an excellent program, and excited about hearing more about it in the future. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Belcher. What I would like to finish with saying is, since we've been on this road, the assaults inmate to inmate, the assaults inmates on officers, the lawsuits and the liability that's associated with those things, we've seen them drastically decrease in the detention center. So doing the right thing for the right reasons does also affect the bottom line. Thank you, Commissioners.
Sheriff.
Sir.
I'd like to also echo what Joe stole my thunder. So as one of the participants in that, I would like to say what an honor and a pleasure it was to be present. We certainly appreciate the invitation. I left there feeling just extremely confident with the force you have, and it was also just an uplifting time, and you have a great force and you've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner King. Captain Salyers is near retirement. This may be the last time you guys get to see him in the commission chambers in a presentation role, but I just wanted to point that out. And as Major Monty Abbas says, it is the team. It's not one individual, it's the group, and I'm very proud of them. Thank you.
Let's give these guys a hand. That's really good what they're doing. You know, this sheriff has really found the balance between putting folks that need to be in jail, and recognizing the mental health ailments and substance abuse and trying to separate that out. And it saved our county a lot of money, as he said, and we do appreciate it. Next up, we have Black Mountain Alderman Don Collins and Tom Gill, chair of the Black Mountain Town Square Project, who will do a presentation tonight. Alderman, nice to have you here. Thank you for coming over.
First of all, thank you. We appreciate it, and I'd like to thank the chair and the Board of Commissioners for their the privilege of allowing us to meet with you today and discuss our town square. The Black Mountain Mayor and the Board of Aldermen send their best regards and their thanks. As you know, the town of Black Mountain has purchased a piece of property for over $2 million in the center of town. We know this will be a strong economic boost for current businesses, and what is good for the town will also be good for Buncombe County. We formed a steering committee that is to raise the funds for the development and for the endowment to take care of the square. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Tom Gill, who is our chairman of the steering committee, and let him present our vision for the square and where we stand today.
Commissioners, I, on behalf of the Town Square Steering Committee, wish to express our deep gratitude for you putting us on the agenda. We deeply appreciate it. We're really excited about this project. We believe that in the eastern part of the county, we're going to see some amazing things happen as a result of this. And so with that, if I could get the first slide up there, that would be a wonderful thing. I believe each of you received a binder this evening that has a lot of information in it. I assure you we'll not go through every page, but it's there for your edification so you can read it. A lot of the work has gone into this project since the Town Square Steering Committee was formed back in 2010. We've been at this now for going into our 4th year. When the steering committee was first put into place, we were given 3 primary tasks. The first task was to determine an interim use for the space, and that space is located at the corner of North Carolina 9 and U.S. Highway 70 at Montreat Road and State Street in Black Mountain. The second priority that we were given was, what do the residents want to see on the space? And the third priority we were given is, how in the world are we going to pay for it? Now, when the town bought the property in 2009, there was a tax increase that went into place to pay the $2.1 million price tag for the property. So the development on the space has been left up to the Town Square Steering Committee to raise the funds, and we're in the process of doing that even as we speak. Now, Black Mountain is known as the front porch of Western North Carolina. And you can see that we are in the process of building a grander front porch. Let's see if we can figure this thing out here. There we go. There. Now, Black Mountain has the privilege of being recognized as a certified entrepreneurial community. And that's a distinction that we earned to jump through a lot of hoops and seeing a lot of really amazing things happen in town. As a result of that, we can honestly say that Black Mountain is business friendly. And I'm having a problem with the clicker here. So if somebody, there we go. I'm going to let somebody else handle that clicker for me. Black Mountain is business friendly. We are inviting to new businesses. We provide an environment for new businesses to start and grow. We like to think of ourselves as an incubator place in Black Mountain. We offer incentives to help businesses and entrepreneurs gain a foothold so they can grow their businesses. And the Town Square provides new economic opportunities for these new businesses to start. The governor was in town just a few weeks ago and on part of his Main Street tour, and as a result of that, he stopped into several of our businesses right on downtown Black Mountain. And one of the things he said, and this was quoted in the paper on March 7th, "I love the vision that the mayor has regarding your park at the square." Now, the park is just one part of that. The Black Mountain Town Square, as I said, the property was purchased in fall of 2009. People had a vision and said, what would happen if we redefined the center of our town? And that's where the steering committee came from. January 2010, we were put into place. We had 3 focus we've already talked about. October 2010, we completed a survey that was done through the Western North Carolina Public Policy Institute. And you'll see that as part of your packet, as there's a survey that we took among residents in town. And we found there were 3 priorities that they established for us. Number 1, we would like to see open space and green space on the property. Now, that went from one end of the property to the other to just a piece of the property. So residents said, this is what we would like to see. Another group, the second priority was we would like to see additional parking in downtown Black Mountain. Now, it's a wonderful place to go and to shop, but sometimes people have to walk a ways once they find a place to park and have to get into town. So parking is at a premium in downtown Black Mountain. So parking was a second priority that we saw. And the third priority was retail space. Now, that was an interesting thing that we saw in the survey, because overwhelmingly, to a previous question, and you'll see this in the first part of the packet, people said there was enough retail space in downtown Black Mountain. But what really occurred in that incubator that we saw and through the focus groups that we did, we understood that people wanted to see some kind of a way for new businesses to start or small vendors to have a place to go, especially during events we have in the summertime. So that was how we interpreted the retail space area. In October 2011, we did a traffic study. Part of what we had to understand was how in the world is this space in the center of Black Mountain going to look in the context of traffic. This space is 1.3 acres in size. It housed, on the west end was a service station, on the east end was a service station, and just above it was the bank and the old town hall was there. Well, now all those buildings are gone, and all of that space was parking, and you can drive into that space from virtually anywhere along State Street or on Montreat Road. We knew, as busy as that intersection was, especially with the public safety buildings right to the north, that DOT was going to have some very sharp opinions about how we needed to handle traffic in that intersection. And so if we'll move to the next slide, you can see what our concept plan shows. You'll see that, first of all, the intersection was redesigned by a traffic study done in August 2011. DOT has this in their hands, and it's my understanding that they are doing some work on it. I have no idea where it stands in the process right now, but that is something that is definitely in play. If you go to the next slide, you'll see an aerial view. This drawing shows on the west side parks and open space, which is, really covers the first priority that we saw from the residents that we surveyed. On the east end, up on the far right-hand corner, you'll see that entire space is devoted to parking. And if you drive into Black Mountain right now, you'll see that it's already marked and used for that, even though it hasn't been developed the way that the plan looks at this point. In the center is an area that we call the Town Square Marketplace. This came out of the committee wrestling with the idea of how can we have commercial space in the middle of town on this space when the town really doesn't want to subdivide the property, and also a place where small vendors can come in and do their thing, especially when we have events in the summertime. So this is an open pavilion. One of the members of the committee said, what about an open bazaar? And that's where this came from. So that's part of our vision as well, is to have a place in the center of the square where small vendors can set up shop and for short-term periods rent space from the town and actually start their businesses or conduct their business right there in the square. If you go to the next slide, our total budget for this project is $2 million. $1.5 million to construct it according to the concept plan that you saw just a moment ago, and then $500,000 for an endowment. This endowment will not be used for general maintenance and upkeep. That will be part of the town's responsibility because Parks and Rec Department will have control of this space. But in order to maintain the integrity of the space and to make sure that it retains its appeal and its look as a refreshing place in the center of Black Mountain, this endowment was set up so that the town would not have to bear the burden of maintaining the space in that regard. Of that, we have so far received in donations, grants, and pledges $250,000. We've received toward the endowment fund $242,000, which brings us right around $492,000. And of that, we have right around $170,000 in the bank. We have also submitted grant requests. In fact, one is in place right now with TDA. We made it through the first cut. We are one of the 8 finalists that are going into this round. So if you would all just send up a prayer and say, hey, go ahead and give something to Town Square, to be wonderful, we'd appreciate that. Because we believe that residents or visitors will come and stay. In fact, we've got surveys to back it up. So, what are we asking from Buncombe County? If we can go to the next slide. We would really appreciate it if you would help us build the restrooms. It's going to cost $50,000 to do that, and that's what we're asking the county for. Now, this center actually is the center point of Black Mountain. It's going to be a place where visitors and residents alike can use this space. It'll be a place for refreshment and for rest, and a place where people gather for events. In fact, we have 4 concerts planned as fundraisers through the summer to help raise money to build this space. Obviously, those people need to relieve themselves whenever the nature calls. And so that's one of the things that we would really like to get done and taken care of pretty quickly. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Frost?
I want to say this project makes me so proud. This project makes me so proud. What you're neglecting in your presentation is how it looked before you all. Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Before you all started, and I think it's refreshing that you're raising $2 million and only asking us for $50,000. And if others might look at the ingenuity of Black Mountain, it would help everybody.
Thank you.
I'll take that as a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Commissioner Jones. Yes, sir, Commissioner King.
No, I was just going to make a comment. The parking, I think, is a big sell here, too. It's having previously owned a small retail business in downtown Hendersonville years ago, I know how critical parking is to small merchants. In many cases, it's a difference of people coming and not coming. So I assume you've kind of done some research and you realize or have found that this should be a economic boost to the small merchants?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, studies have shown, I'm sorry, you're in the middle of a motion. May I speak?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Studies have shown that property values tend to increase surrounding areas such as this in the center of town. We also have discovered that business increases, especially in the small businesses right surrounding those areas, because people come and they sit, they stop, they look, and they say, oh, I didn't see that place before, and they have a place to go now. Plus, us guys that don't really care about shopping can sit in the benches while our wives shop. It works all the time.
Just a quick comment. Usually, sometimes on Sunday afternoon, we'll go to Black Mountain. eat at my father's pizza, one of my kids' favorite places to go. And it is a challenge sometimes finding a place to park. And there's some, so I'm going to be supportive of this, and I also like the fact that you are exploring private donations, and you're exploring other things other than taxpayer dollars to get some money. And so I hope your rocking chairs are coming along good too. So
They're coming along very well.
I have one question. If for folks who would like to make a contribution to the project, how can they? What's the process for doing that?
We have several processes in place. In fact, we have just begun our public phase of fundraising, but we have a website called rusquare.com. It's the letter R, the letter U, and square.com. And that will give you ample opportunities, or anyone ample opportunities to leave their mark and their legacy right in the center of Black Mountain.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Comment.
Mr. Fryar?
I appreciate this very much. It's in my district, and I had talked to him about it. It's still money right now, and I think it'll be approved tonight, but, you know, I still want to watch the money, but it's very little for us to do one for one small entity from what we've done straight up the street here in Asheville, and I think it was turned into $22 million. Black Mountain is trying to stand on its feet. It's asking for very little, and I'll be supportive of this.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll call the question on the motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Vice Chair Jones. All those in favor of the allocation of $50,000 to Black Mountain Town Square, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Alderman Collins. Next up, we're going to have a report from the Diversity Committee, and we will have Lisa Eby start us off and direct us through the findings and introduce the other folks. Lisa.
Thank you so much. I would like to take a minute to introduce the committee members. Diane Price in Finance, Kurt Euler as our attorney, Joshua O'Connor in Permits and Inspection. Did I get that right? Angie Pittman in Health and Human Services, Gigi Francis in Library Systems, Roxanne Sizemore in Health and Human Services, David Thompson in IT, and Joe Owen in IT as well. There are two committee members who are not here today, Ronnie Reese in EMS, and Dea Turuno Ramos is not here as well. So I do want to point out that these committee members, they were appointed and agreed to serve on this committee, and that most of the work was done during lunch hours or very early in the morning before work started. So this was work that was difficult work, but work that they were willing to jump into and do. So I'd like to make sure that we're aware of that. We started as a group of individuals that represented like the typical diverse categories, right? Male, female, straight, gay, Black, Latino, all those neat boxes. But what happened over 3 months and 15 meetings was that we really learned what the power of an engaged and a diverse group could do. It really became evident in the thoughtful and analytical approach that they took to studying this issue. The questions that they asked, they pressed me hard. They made sure that they had the information there and available. We argued amongst ourselves in a very forceful way at times, but it was always respectful, and it was always centered around what we needed to do, which was to do the right thing for the county and the right thing for our employees. We really tried to address two fundamental questions. Do we have sufficient safeguards in place that protect employees against discrimination and harassment in our current organization? And is there equity in our current benefit system? To answer these two questions, the committee took a very hard look at our current personnel ordinance, our policies, and just as important, the practice, what we do on a day-to-day basis in our county, and also at our benefit structure. With regard to protections against discrimination and harassment, They learned that county government is very different from the private industry, that county employees have very different rights than what typically an employee has in private industry. From hiring, pay promotion, employee discipline, and dismissal, county government has safeguards in place to ensure an equitable and fair personnel system. For example, as we've talked about before, pay is the same across a class for all employees. Discipline is a structured, progressive process, and when an employee is separated from county government, they can only be separated for just cause. And just cause is defined very specifically in the ordinance based on either unsatisfactory job performance or unacceptable personal conduct. Employees who feel they're separated for any other reason due to this, they have already the ability to go and use the legal system to address this. In addition, they studied our formal grievance process and saw that that was another avenue available to employees. But beyond these system safeguards, a large portion of our conversation centered on how do you create a safe, supportive, inclusive, and productive work environment for all employees? How do you tend organizational culture so that what you say you do is translated in your day-to-day practice? This was the question that we really spent so much time on, because it doesn't really matter if you've got everything else in place if it's not translated in the day-to-day relationships and interactions that people have. We had very candid discussion, and we asked, how do we as an organization foster a culture that allows every employee, regardless of an identified or unidentified characteristic, to show up fully and give their best each day? We asked ourselves, is our culture inclusive? Do we allow people to be their authentic selves when they come to work? Do we create safe spaces for employees to voice their perspectives, to speak up? And is our agency one where we realize the benefits of a richly diverse workforce? These were the questions that we asked and that we talked about vigorously. And we realized that the real work is in the answer to these questions, and our ability to answer these questions for our employees and for our community. Toward that end, after all this discussion, we came up with the following recommendations. The committee realized that supervisors are the keepers of the culture, and that if we don't tend and mind what our supervisors are doing, then our daily practice doesn't reflect our values. And so the committee recommends ongoing focused trainings that reinforce and support these expectations with our supervisors. The committee recommends that we do annual supervisory assessment surveys that are done by direct reports that specifically ask how well their supervisor is creating a safe, supportive, and inclusive work environment. The committee recommends that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee continue to meet and act as a driving force for best practice and accountability throughout the, county government. And finally, the committee recommends the adoption of the Respectful Workplace Policy. Although there were many elements of this policy that were kind of interspersed in the personnel ordinance, we felt like this policy really spoke to what our hope is for every employee, that they can show up to work and be free from any kind of distracting harassment, intimidating comments, or anything that would distract from them being able to show up and give their best at work every day. We feel that the policy spells out clearly the behaviors that we expect from employees. It spells out clearly to employees what remedies they have if they're experiencing these things, and it spells out clearly the expectations for management to act and the ramifications for employees who choose to not follow the policy. The reality is that with a lean workforce where leaders work in a team environment, we need every worker to be engaged and productive. Our future depends on a workforce that shows up each day and works smart. We need a culture that fully taps each employee's creativity, passion, and professionalism. We know the key to this is to foster a work culture that sees the value in every employee, has fair and consistent practices that have built into them accountability, and allows each employee to show up as their authentic self. The committee hopes these measures will be positive steps toward tending an agency culture that reflects this reality. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about the policy. And the policy that we're talking about is the Respectful Workplace Policy, and that is a policy that would be added, again, in one of the appendices to the personnel ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions? What I'd intend to do is to have questions right now, preliminary questions for Lisa on the respectful workplace policy, then take public hearing, have a public hearing, and have members of the public that wish to speak on this part of our agenda, then close the public part, and then go back and see if there are any follow-up questions from any commissioner, and then and then take a vote on this respect workplace policy. So, any questions right now for Ms. Eby?
How many hours do you think the committee took to come up with this?
Oh, it was the actual meeting time, and then there was work that actually was done by committee members outside of those meeting times, but we met over 15 times. We typically met between an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time, and then there was extensive work done outside of the times that we actually met face-to-face.
Thank you.
In reading the policy, it seems very clear, and that it's you put a lot of time into it. There's two words that I like most: all employees. It's an inclusive package that spells out how everyone will treat everyone, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions right now?
Just got a couple of comments. One, I want to thank you, all of you, for what you did and the time you spent on it, and the 3 months' time was actually one of the reasons why I was really wanting to deal with this and then deal with something else, because these kind of things are very serious. They're very heartfelt, very thought out, and it takes a while to be able to do this and make some of these decisions. I have read this several times. I've actually explained it to a lot of people, and what I see there is how I was raised and how I was taught, and how mothers and fathers and grandmothers and community leaders and churches and pastors and teachers and some of the great mentors that we've all had in the past tell you to treat people. And I think Buncombe County now, from all the staff that I've met, and I've met several of these people and spent a lot of time with a couple of them, and I found them to be amazingly dedicated, excited about what they do, and proud of Buncombe County, and proud of their workplace, and proud of the people that surround them. And so I salute you for what you've done on this. And there's a part of me that thinks it's a shame that we would have to even do this. But I appreciate the work and the hard work that you've put into it, each of you, and thank you for this part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the respectful workplace policy? If not, let's start the public hearing. 3 minutes, if you'll give your name and where you live. Mr. Ditmore.
Hi, I'm Alan Ditmore of Old 20 Leicester. I would have put to rest the idea that this is going to hurt the budget or it's going to cost even a penny, because it's pretty obvious to me that it won't. And the main reason is fertility rates. That there's a lot of employer costs. Actually, the last civil rights movement, the feminist movement, dealt with this a lot. There's a lot of employer costs related to parenthood. It relates to, that come from child care-related fatigue, parental leave, child-dependent expenses if you're paying them. There's a lot of these affecting parents, and a lot of gay people aren't parents. Aren't going to have these expenses. The fertility rate I calculated, I at least roughly calculated, was about half a kid, including the average was about half a kid, including adoption. So 0.5. It's about a quarter of the overall fertility rate. So you have a quarter of the number of kids. You have the quarter number of effects of kids on employers and on the county itself, because obviously if you're hiring gays, then you're then many times you hire from out of town. I've seen you, list in specialized services. So you hire from out of town, they move in, and that positively affects my school tax. If a lot of people move in to work here, then they become my neighbors, and they save me school tax because they have half a kid instead of having 2 kids. So that's gonna save me money, and it's gonna save your budget. And you look at gay enclaves, communities with a high proportion of gays. San Francisco, budget problems? No, they've never gone bankrupt. Provincetown, Massachusetts, Key West, Florida, Northampton, Massachusetts. None of these towns, they have budgets that you would envy, all of them. They're not Detroit. They're not going to Cleveland. They're not going bankrupt. It's because gays are not just another minority. And their enclaves and the budgets of their enclaves deserve research, and are clearly going to prove that it's not going to cause any budget crisis. I think the civility standards are too high. I think there's a First Amendment issue. I don't think everybody's capable of these kind of vague civility standards. That there's people that you're going to muzzle completely because they're not capable of always speaking with respect. Their only choice is to, shut up completely.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dibmore. Any other public comment on the respectful workplace policy? Yes, in the front.
Hello. My name is Basil Soper. I'm 26 years old, and I've been a Buncombe County resident, as well as someone who has intentionally worked for local businesses for the past 6 years. I live in Asheville. I'm a community organizer with the LGBT organization called Justice for All. I'm also transgender. I stand before all of you understanding that each one of you commissioners have already made up your minds on the Respectful Workplace Ordinance and Domestic Partnership Registry. All of you have different views and different lives. You're all individuals with the capability to lead successful lives, making your own choices and having your own views. I, too, am an individual. I'm a person living in America, a capitalist society that prides itself on individualism, a society that we all live in. While the Domestic Partnership Act would benefit me, it would not benefit me or any other transgender person to the extent of how the Respectful Workplace Ordinance would help us if gender identity and sexual orientation were in the county's work protection law. Income is essential to all people. I am privileged to be able to work in a space that allows me to be myself and fully accepts me for who I am. However, the transgender unemployment rate is 14%. That is double the national rate. Work is a necessity for all people to eat food, drink water, and attain medical services. We need jobs to survive, and it is also work that keeps our society afloat. I know what I have said hasn't changed anyone's mind, but I hope that those of you who oppose this bill tonight know that they are opposing the ability to let people live within a society rather than live on the fringe of it. Voting against these issues is voting to choose to only protect certain people in a system that is based on economics and financial stability. You're choosing to not allow people to maintain financial stability because of their individualism, because they are themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Abel. Any other public comment on the respectful workplace policy? We're getting to the other one just a little bit. Hold on. Okay. Any discussion, any motion among the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this, and I would also like to say this matter is dear to my heart, and I commend the committee members, but also I want to share, working with my fellow commissioners, respect is utmost importance to them. They're all, and we're all very, very different, but we all come together, and respect is in all of our DNA. And I want to just say thank you to the committee. This couldn't have been easy, and I appreciate your hard work.
All right, there's been a motion by Commissioner Frost. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner King.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I seem to be some confusion on some of the speakers that I think they're confusing the other issue with this one. If you don't mind, clarify that, please.
Thank you. specifically, this vote is on a workplace policy. The stated policy is to maintain a professional and respectful work and public service environment where all employees contribute to a safe, supportive, and inclusive work environment that is free from offensive remarks, material, or behavior. That's what we're voting on. And the policy, it has been listed. It includes disrespectful behavior. It includes what we want to do so that everybody can, to read the preface, to support a culture where employees feel safe to address these issues constructively and with management support, to stop disrespectful behavior before it crosses the line into discipline. And we will not tolerate this disrespectful behavior by or towards any employee or other individual, by employees, visitors, or vendors. So basically what we're doing in this, we're shutting down disrespectful behavior. We're not going to let it happen. You are going to be respected. Your opinion, whatever it is going to be respected. And we are going to create a climate that if this is not followed, we will find a violation.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I do want to add 2 cents in about. As I've kind of thought through all this, one of the things that this is so strong around this policy is it does set. It's an anti-harassment policy. And I think part of the strength of this for me is that what it's going to say to our children. Because really, in their world, it's about bullying. And so this sets a tone for how we are going to help our children know how they are going to operate on the school playground and in the classrooms and what's not accepted. So. And I do also want to share that I think part of why that's so important as adults to model is because of the horrific statistics that we know that impact our young people that are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. The pain and the suffering and the experiences that they have it just is horrific. So I think it's really important for this starts here, and thank you for helping us hopefully do what we were already doing, but articulate it in a way that's bigger for our community and for our future.
I'd like to go ahead.
Commissioner Fryar?
I do thank you. I know it's been very hard, Lisa, for y'all to put this together. I have an office back here. It's room 320. And anybody discriminated against, I don't care if it's black, white, gay, whatever. I've got an open door. I think I've done a little fighting for other people in other areas, and I'll be more than happy to fight for anybody in the county. That's what we're all 7 up here for. We'll disagree on a lot of things, but this one's something I can't disagree on. Everybody should be treated equal.
Is comment still open? No. Commissioner Belcher?
There's a question, comment and a question, I guess. Ms. Eby, does this respectful workplace policy apply to everyone?
Yes, it does. It's intentionally meant to do that.
Okay, it applies to everyone, current and future team members. Secondly, does it specifically mention any particular class or description or other than just being inclusive of everyone?
It does not. Okay.
One of the reasons I wanted to separate these, just as a point of information, to make sure that if you haven't read everything, as we have read everything, is to make sure that you understand that I intend to support this, because it clearly says that we will treat everyone with dignity and respect, and there's certain things you can do and certain things you can't do, and if you do the things you can't do, then you're going to be talked about it at review. You're going to be written up. There's proper disciplinary things, and those policies are being followed now, and they're business policies, and therefore they're in place here at Buncombe County in a respectful manner. And I want to make it very clear that to separate this from the other issue. I am going to support this wholeheartedly, because the company I'd worked for previously, people knew that I would not tolerate that as a supervisor, and it was a cultural thing, and therefore it created a great environment. And I think we can do that if we treat each other with respect based on productivity and how you do your job, and smile at everybody and shake everybody's hand and hold the doors for them, and, you know, keep the other stuff to yourself. But thank you again for for this.
Any other comments? Any other discussion among the commissioners?
David, just one other comment, just so folks are clear on kind of the process for this going forward. Thanks, Joe. As you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the proposal that's in front of us at the moment is not a non-discrimination policy per se. It is this broader policy around encouraging respectful workplace environment in a more general sense and very broad sense. But that the non-discrimination piece will be on the commission agenda in 2 weeks from now, so that if that's an issue that is important to folks, that is a specific issue that will be talked about at the next commission meeting. But I think for a lot of reasons, that is considered distinct from what we're considering here and separate from that. But it is not, that does not mean that it will not be discussed by this body, but it will not be it's not on the agenda for this meeting tonight.
Thank you. That's an important distinction Commissioner Newman made. We will be taking up actually the next 2 meetings the question and issue related to this of whether we will add sexual orientation and gender identity to our discrimination policy. That is not before this board tonight. Okay, we're going to have a meeting, and then we're going to have a second. We have an ordinance now, and in fact, an earlier board voted on this very issue. We're going to vote on this next week or 2 weeks from today, and then there'll be a second reading of that a month from today. So we've got a couple more steps to go. Today, in this vote, the motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Commissioner King, is for the this respectful workplace policy that Ms. Eby and the commissioners have been discussing. So thank you. Excellent point. And there will be 2 readings on that because it's a change to our existing ordinance. Is that right, Mr. Frew?
2 readings unless the first reading is unanimous.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions or comments from the commission about the respectful workplace policy? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the respectful workplace policy as articulated by Ms. Eby and her diversity committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then the respectful workplace policy is adopted by a 7-0 vote. Now let's talk about domestic partner policy.
And Diane Price is going to speak to this issue. Diane worked also closely with Rob Thornberry in HR department because it entailed benefits and different legal documents. I do want to say before Diane gets up that I want to make sure that the committee understands that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee were asked the question, do we have equity in our benefits? And in order to answer that question, the committee members really put aside personal opinions, their own ideas about what kind of relationships people should have, and they addressed whether or not what we had currently was equitable for all employees. So Diane will talk about that.
Thank you. And I guess the short answer to that question is no, because we found that while we ask for the same dedication and hard work from all our employees, we don't offer the same benefits to them. The policy before you today addresses that inequity by extending benefit and leave policy coverage to eligible same and opposite sex domestic partners. Those benefits would be the same as those offered to families of other county employees who are married, as long as there's no state or federal law prohibiting it. When our committee looked at defining domestic partner benefits, we wanted to be sure the benefit and leave policy coverage was fair for all employees and the guidelines were stringent. The committee had to walk a line and find a way to distinguish between a committed domestic partner relationship that we do want to be eligible for benefits and a more casual dating type relationship that we did not feel should be eligible. Since married employees would be subject to equal distribution of property laws if they divorced, we wanted the domestic partner guidelines to be equally restrictive in order to make that distinction and be fair to all employees. I did want to also point out that we were very sensitive to the fact that employees shouldn't bear the cost of having to go to an attorney unless they chose to prepare the domestic partnership agreement. So we have developed a template that will be available in our HR office at no cost to employees. So to qualify, employees would have to complete an affidavit of domestic partnership and a domestic partnership agreement. They would have 30 days from the date their agreement is signed and notarized to enroll with our Human Resources Office. Otherwise, they would have to wait until our annual open enrollment period, which is the same policy as all employees. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee feels strongly that adoption of the Buncombe County Domestic Partnership Benefit Coverage Policy will demonstrate a commitment to equity for all employees, and we are asking that you adopt it with an effective date of April 1st, 2013.
All righty. Any questions? We're going to do the same protocol we did for the respectful workplace policy. I'm going to ask if there are any preliminary questions from Diane from the commission. Then we're going to do public hearing. Then we'll take up the matter and resolve the issue. So any questions for Diane right now? All righty. I do have a little bit of a question here. The areas that the specific areas that you found with the discrepancy in were health insurance, life insurance, Family Medical Leave Act, and use of leave. Are those the four main discrepancies you found between our current policy and your recommended policy?
Yes, that's correct.
And so is it the recommendation of the Diversity Committee that we offer them at the same, not free, but at the cost of every other partner that's currently recognized?
Yes, it would be equivalent to the benefits currently offered to married employees, unless there was a state or federal law restricting it, which right now the only thing we could not extend is the flexible spending account benefit, because those guidelines are set by the IRS, and nobody can trump the IRS.
The employee would have to pay for this like any other employee for the covered member.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm going to ask a question that I know the answer to, but I think it's an important piece of data out there, and I think there's some misinformation. So what is the average cost per person for a year of health benefits?
The average cost to the county or to the...
yeah.
We estimate an average, it's about $7,000 per year per covered life.
That's the average.
That's the average.
And we understand there's a range, and
exactly.
Some of us have healthy years, and we're grateful for those, and we're cheap. And then in some years are harder. So
that's correct. Yeah.
But I think there's been some other numbers out there, and I just want to also highlight what Chairman Gant indicated, in that the way that our benefit package works for families or spouses now is that is a contribution that people elect to. It doesn't cover the whole freight, but it is a buy-in. It is participating economically in this. So it's not just a free thing that gets out.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so thank you for helping us get at that in the record.
I'd like to have a question now,
yes,
please.
Mr. Fryar.
What she's talking about, how much we are self-insured?
Yes.
Okay. How much are we holding of our money aside to cover incidents through the years?
That's covered in the insurance fund. I'm just aware of the estimate that we made of the potential cost of adding this benefit.
No, not the potential right now. There's got to be a cost. I understand that, but per employee, there's got to be a number. It's not the actual number that they pay in is not going to be the number that basically gets paid out. But there's got to be a number set in there where you have it in your thing, or HR's got it, but there has to be a number that's built up because we got all these people
I mean,
now
we do
to
have, I
cover.
know we do have a contingency reserve, but I'm not aware of what that number is. I think that would be more of a question
I'd like to know that
our
number.
HR director.
Just a question. Did you explore other options for coverage, such as the county using its group buying policy, group power, to possibly have benefits for, for example, now it used to a 23-year-old was covered if they were staying at home, at the college. Now it went to 26-year-old. Mm-hmm. Well, if somebody had a 27-year-old and they worked for Buncombe County and they were wanting to cover that son or daughter, did we explore any options about possibly using the buying power of our group, and that which would put it outside of the $200? I think we have a $200,000. We're self-insured up to $200. I think is the number.
This committee did not look at that. We were charged with bringing a recommendation, and we thought the most equitable solution to that was to offer the same benefits to these employees for opposite and same-sex partners that other county employees have. We didn't think there should be a differential, but if it's the pleasure of the board for us to go back and consider that, we would be happy to do that. But at this point, that was not an option we researched.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we have public comment? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Price. Public comment, 3 minutes. We'd like to hear your name and where you're from. In the front row, in the third row there, and then Mr. Rice. Oh, yes. Thank you. Commissioner Belcher, remind me, if there are 8 people, you can come on up. I'm going to, if you have 8 people who wish to give up their time, then we will give you 10 minutes. But all 8 people have to be here, and we have to count them and make sure we got the deal there. Yes, ma'am.
Again, I am here in front of you asking for
name
support.
And where you're from, ma'am, please.
And I am Yvonne Cook Riley. I live in Asheville, and I'm a taxpayer in Buncombe County. And I'm a member of First Family of Buncombe County, which means that I go back a long time here. I am also a part-time employee of this county, and I do my job with pride. Most of you know me personally, and I give you more than 100%. I am asking you as commissioners to vote in favor of extending domestic partnerships to my brothers and sisters who are in desperate financial straits when medical issues come into their families, like any other family who lives here in Buncombe County who has the right and the privilege of marriage that we do not have. The equality for human experience is coming your way. The changes that are being made nationally have going to be made locally, and you are on the cutting edge of setting that example to say that, again, Buncombe County, the city of Asheville, shows their pride not only in their employees, their taxpayers, and their citizens. So I encourage a positive vote on this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Mr. Rice, who wants to speak after? Pink shirt in the back. Can't see you there. I saw a shirt there. Oh, fake out. WLOS, sorry. Okay, the gentleman in the coat and tie. You'll be next, sir. On the fifth row. Yeah, you're next after Mr. Rice. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's the first time I believe I've heard comments on an issue like this without saying we've checked with the Association of County Commissioners and we've found that they have certain policies and guidelines across the state. I just wonder, I've not heard that brought up. How does other counties, there's 100 of them, I'd like to know if this committee has looked into that. I would like to see if there's any benefit from other counties that would help us to see if there's a benefit to us. Because I'm sure we're not the only one that's looked into this issue. And I don't think sitting isolated is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Yes, sir, on the fourth row. Would you like to speak, sir? And then I'll have you next, sir. Coat and tie, and then brown shirt.
Bless you.
Yes, my name is Ronald Gates. I'm a resident of Asheville, North Carolina, also a local pastor of Greater Works Church, also the president of the IMA, Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. And as I, reference or honor them in their input, that we as community leaders and local clergy would like for the recommendation for same-sex benefits be removed from the proposal, that this proposal is not a total voice of the people of Buncombe County, and it is not into the best interest to our biblical principles and moral standards in which the people and the nation were founded on. It is with this, with this thought, we know that it is that they're wanting to offer offer benefits to even to those who are in a polygamous relationship, but we see it as a ploy to adopt the benefits for same-sex marriage. So again, we submit to the commissioner boards to relinquish from adopting same-sex benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Gates. Yes, sir. And who wants to speak after this gentleman? Let's see. I'll have Reverend Runyon, you be next. Go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you for the time to express my remarks or concerns. Robert Harris, been living in Buncombe County about 40 years. Paid taxes, got all my taxes paid full. Even paying taxes, as long as they're producing good results. I'm totally against domestic partner policy for that kind of couples to receive the same benefits as a man-woman marriage couple. To me, I think it'd be hard for anyone to support any advantages of that kind of lifestyle living. It's a very destructive style of living, I think, especially for those who want to adopt children, rear children. What will they become? As you know, one of the worst things we have in this country is suicides by kids that don't know who they are, why they're here, and where they're going. So I hope the board will certainly disapprove of domestic partner policy benefits. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Reverend Runyon. And then Lady two down from Reverend Runyon.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Wendell Runyon. I'm a resident of Asheville, North Carolina for most of my life, and it's with regret that I must stand here and address this issue today. Our county has deep Christian roots with a history of strong biblical values, as some of you have. As a Bible-believing Christian who has been in the ministry for 43 years, and all of it right here in Asheville and Buncombe County, I must encourage you to vote against the domestic partner benefit policy. I'm like Brother Gant. I have a problem reading these two names too. I am fine with you voting for the respectful and polite workplace policy. It's terrible that we've come to that time in America. When I was growing up, my daddy taught me to be respectful to everybody. He was a very patriotic man. If I weren't respectful, he would put on the stripes and I saw the stars. But it's a terrible day that we have to come to this and put it on paper. If you pass both these today, the news media will bury the respectful workplace policy and did you hear the cameras start clicking when this one started and they were silent when the other one was going? and they'll give extreme coverage to the domestic partner policy, you will not accomplish what you're trying to do in expressing your desire for fairness in Buncombe County. In 2010, the same voters that elected you to this board voted for a North Carolina constitutional amendment that marriage is not valid in the state unless it's between one man and one woman. Now that vote was between 80 and 90% in favor of the amendment, both in Buncombe County and in the state of North Carolina.
I'm going to ask. We're not going to be commentating. Stop the clock. I'm not going to do that, folks. We're going to give everybody respect here. He has a right to speak. You have a right to speak, and I'm going to respect both. If you don't respect it, you're going to get out of here. Okay? Go ahead. Start his time where I interrupted him. Excuse me, Reverend. You go right ahead.
Thank you. Called the State Board of Elections today and got those figures. I believe that if any one of you won an election with that majority, that you would boast about being elected with a powerful mandate. With that in mind, I believe the board would be giving a big slap in the face of the people of Buncombe County. We realize the domestic partner benefit policy and its wording is only a smokescreen for gay rights.
I'll give you another 30 seconds since we interrupted you, sir.
You're redefining the definition of our Judeo-Christian heritage and what a family is. In Genesis 1:1, it was a man and a woman, and if it wasn't, there would have been no procreation. I will ask you to please vote against, or at least table this issue.
Thank you, Reverend Runyon. Ms. Rodheimer, I believe. And lady that got up, you can be next since you're...
Commissioners, my name is Kathy Rodheimer. I'm from Candler. And it seems once again we see an unelected committee deciding policy. Question same-sex... What's that?
Step to the mic.
The question same-sex marriage, civil unions, and domestic partnerships proponents always ask is, how could my relationship ever impact you and your family? One of the answers is this proposed policy change and the forced use of our tax dollars to fund medically harmful behaviors. And multiple studies showing these relationships have rampant domestic violence and dysfunction. And so I strongly reject my tax dollars being used to subsidize and affirm unhealthy, dysfunctional relationships of any kind. Government needs to get out of these matters. This policy is nothing but a political statement on the part of some members of this board. I vehemently reject your proposed use of my tax dollars in order to further your social engineering agenda. And with Obamacare coming, this effort is redundant and a misuse of our tax dollars. No one is entitled to every and all government benefits. I can't access many government benefits, too numerous to mention. Am I being discriminated against? You bet. And it's very understandable and reasonable that I don't receive these benefits. I don't meet the criteria, and neither do unmarried couplings meet the criteria for marriage benefits. The dangers of having laws that make domestic partnership a special protected class means the government has a compelling interest to promote that behavior and must declare anything in opposition to the government's position hate speech. Oh, and this is all over an immutable, changeable behavior. Citizens should not be forced by government to validate and affirm through our tax dollars behaviors that we find offensive and have proven to be medically harmful to those engaging in such, and which has historically been proven harmful to society at large. Is government now going to impose and mandate that unmarried cohabiting sexual partners supersedes and trumps the fundamental right of conscience? That goes against the very foundations this nation was built upon. And you're also discriminating against couplings that are not of a sexual nature. Our tax dollars are not your personal piggy bank in order to further your personal agenda. And in these bad economic times, this is ill-advised, as more and more as cost has already strapped the county government. The sexual orientation, it is mutable and changeable. There are many former homosexuals. This is not the civil rights movement of the when the blacks were during the 60s, and it offends many people of color to even associate these two. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rothenheimer. Yes, ma'am. Gentleman in the back with the beard, you'll be next up. About 6 rows back. I think you're on the very back, actually. Next to the post. Yeah, you. That'll be good. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lauren Mason. I'm a resident of Buncombe County and a supervisor of over 35 employees of all different persuasions and gender identities, race, all different individuals. So what I'm hearing basically from those that are strongly opposed to this and are asking you to oppose this is fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of something they don't believe in. I was raised Christian. I went to Christian school. My parents are Christians. I don't oppose a lot of their beliefs. I have my own. But what I am is a humanitarian, and I think that a lot of the people here that are opposing this would maybe claim the same thing, falsely claim that, because they're in support of something that's going to restrict basic human rights to people who are individuals of all different persuasions, of all sexual orientations and races. And that basically is rooted in hate as much as, you know, certain religious sects or denominations want to say that they're inclusive and that all they want to do is invite others, you know, into a safe space so that they can feel the love of God and change their lifestyle for the better. It really doesn't seem like that's what we're doing here. The ones here that are in opposition to this because of religious persuasion, I feel like shouldn't even be standing here at all. They're not humanitarians. They're not fighting for human rights. They're fighting for their own personal views and opinions. And if anything, it's destructive to even spread those ideas. It's not inclusive. I find it very confusing as well, those of you that are in support of this inclusive ordinance for the workplace, but yet can oppose health care for all of those employees who are not opposite-sex married couples, and might have other situations that are willing to pay money, their money that they make at their jobs, into this system that should be available to them. So I ask that you do support this and that you take a stance as humanitarians and not Democrats or Republicans or Christians or atheists or any of those other things, because we are humans and we're individuals and we all deserve the same rights, period.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. Ms. Jameson, you'll be next. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Reverend Joe Hoffman. I was born and grew up here in Asheville, North Carolina. Came back in 1996, and I've been the pastor of First Congregational United Church of Christ for the last almost 17 years, the congregation that's located here downtown. I too grew up in a very Christian tradition, but I understand the scriptures in a different way than my fellow clergy persons have spoken of tonight. I'm very proud to be a part of a tradition that nationally has spoken out that all people are people of honor and respect. And to respect someone, I think we don't just say we're going to not say mean words to you, we're not going to cut you down, but that we will offer the same benefits, the same privileges to everybody. I would also say that you don't need to decide whether my form of Christianity is better than the ones who have spoken before me in a different way, because it's not a religious issue. We're not a Christian community. We're a community of many religious traditions and no religious traditions. We're a plural community. And it's in that plurality that we are the great county that we are. None of us look the same. None of us think the same. None of us should be expected to be the same. I want to honor all of the diversity in Buncombe County, and I would ask you to please do the same by supporting this proposal, and I'm very pleased with how well they have drawn this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Hoffman. Ms. Jameson, and then blue shirt. Blue shirt, third row.
Commissioners, thank you. My name is Jerry Goldberg, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And we've been hearing a lot of people speak to and against this issue. So I wanted to share a personal experience because you haven't heard that yet. My partner and I have been together for 15 years. During this time, both of us at one time or another have been without insurance. Fortunate for me, now I work for Mission Health, which does offer domestic partner benefits, and my partner now works for the city of Asheville, which also offers domestic partner benefits, and we are thankful for that. However, about 10 years ago, I had a breast cancer scare, and at that time, I was not insured. Well, actually, I'll take that back. I was in between jobs, self-employed, and I had COBRA while I was searching for another job. Now, thankfully, with the COBRA, most of the medical bills were covered. My monthly bill, though, still for COBRA, the insurance then, as you know, is very expensive. I believe it was close to $200 a month then. Now, had I not had COBRA, the medical bills themselves likely would have caused me not to have been able to, I would have had to make a decision as to what to pay, my medical bills or some other financial obligations that I had. Had it been worse and had it been cancer and my COBRA run out and I had not been able to work, let's say, then likely the taxpayers of this county would have ended up paying many of the medical expenses, because as so many people who do not have insurance, who cannot afford to go to the doctor, I likely would have had to have waited until I couldn't take it anymore and gone to the emergency room for whatever treatment I could have gotten at that time. That then comes down to the taxpayers, you and me and everybody else paying for those services. So I urge you to support the domestic partner benefits for those who cannot afford otherwise to have their medical expenses covered and have a healthy life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Yes, ma'am, and then the lady in the green and third row there. Tell you, let's do this. Let me raise your hand if you want to speak. Can we get maybe in the first three seats here? Let me have you next, ma'am, and then I'll have Chris. Why don't you go next, Mr. Oates, and sit in those seats if you would, and then we'll be in order. And then the next speaker in the back behind Reverend Hoffman, green shirt it looks like. You, sir, you'll be third. So if you'll sit next to Mr. Clemens, and then we'll get it in order, okay? If you'll move down one each, Chris and the lady there. And if you'll, green shirt, if you'll get up here. We'll try to do that, and then we'll do this 3 times. Sorry, your time hadn't started, so I just want to get a little bit of housekeeping here. Great, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is TJ Amos, and I'm a Buncombe County resident, and my heart's really beating really fast right now because I hate public speaking. So, but hearing the people speak who claim to be Christians, it really caused me to feel shame as a Christian to hear those people make the comments they did, because the Jesus that I believe in would never have walked away from anybody in need and would have reached out to anybody who was needing the help. So I hope you guys can keep that in mind. And it was already said it's not a religious issue. Because I'm nervous, I'm just going to read an email that I sent to you guys, and I don't know if you read it or not. So I said, I hope you choose to adopt language in your county employee policies which will let all your employees know they are highly regarded and worthy of benefits all your employees deserve. While some may argue that this is giving tacit approval of something they consider sinful, it is not up to us to order another's life. It is up to us whether folks will be discriminated against or not be allowed health care or other benefits because we don't like them. Please make the choice to respect all county employees and treat them equally, regardless of whom they love or their gender identity. Please do not make the error the mayor did when she stated in council chambers she would never support the equality resolution, therefore telling a large number of her constituents she would never support them. Please have the courage and a heart and let us all know that you wish to help build our city and county into a place we can all feel proud of. I hope to hear your vote supporting it so I can rejoice with my friends whose families have long awaited this day. And I know that not everybody feels proud if this happens because of their personal beliefs, but again, I think it comes down to personal rights to have health care. We complain about the cost of emergency care for people, and if we don't provide basic care for everybody, we can't complain about the cost that the government is saying that we have spent too much of.
Thank you, Ms. Amos. Yes, ma'am. If you'll move down one, and then who else wants?
Start from the front, go back.
Yeah, second row, if you'll just move on. Okay, I'm sorry, sir. I'll call this other man first. No, you go. You stay there, and you'll be after this gentleman in the purple tie. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Demita Jo Wilder. I'm a resident of Asheville and Buncombe County. I am a black female who's a pastor. So if anybody knows about discrimination, I do. I stand before you all. I want to thank you all for even allowing this to come forth. And I want to say also that I understand harassment, because even as a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, in this climate I feel harassed and I feel discriminated against. Never hate. It has nothing to do with hate. I can honor you without funding your behavior. So as a woman of God who is black, I just want to say that it has nothing to do with religion. We're looking at the economy. Can my members afford to pay more taxes to help fund this? I say not. And I understand not having benefits, because as being self-employed as a pastor, sometimes we go without benefits. So I understand that and I sympathize with that. But the same as myself, you've got to find another way to make it work. So thank you all for your time. And there's no hate, there's no beating across the brow, there's no trying to make Jesus Lord. We just want to look at it from a common sense stance.
Thank you, Pastor Wilder. Mr. Oakes?
Good evening, Chairman Gatt, members of the board. I'm here tonight.
You're Chris Oakes from Swannanoa?
Chris Oakes, Swannanoa.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here tonight to plead with you to vote yes on this benefit package for all the employees of this great county, which I'm proud to call home, and their loved ones that live in the home. This is not an LGBT issue only. It's an all-people issue. Everyone should be treated the same, no matter if they're straight, LGBT, black, white, a Martian, an alien. They all should be treated the same. I know people that lived together for years that's never got benefits, and it's not. I have friends that are LGBT, and I have friends that are straight as well. For example, my brother, that lives in Atlanta, Georgia, is gay, and he lives with another man in Georgia. I would hate the thought of something happened to one of them, then the doctor can't share with the other one what's wrong with them. So please vote yes on this issue. I beg you. The people of Buncombe County deserve to be treated with equality and respect.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. Yes, sir. And gentleman behind the blue shirt, you, sir. You go. You'll be next after the man in the yellow tie. Sorry to call you this thing. I'm trying to move it along. Go ahead. Go ahead, Pastor.
My name is Stephen Fox. I am a resident of Candler, pastor of Maple Ridge Baptist Church in Candler, North Carolina. And I want to assure everyone here that I have no hate for anyone at all. I do love my Lord. And to me, this is not a religious issue. It's a biblical issue. I believe the Bible to be the Word of God. I believe our nation is founded upon the Word of God. And the Bible teaches in His Word and gives a definition of marriage between one man and one woman. And also, He does teach that we are to have purity within marriage. He instituted marriage. And I thank God for that. I've been married for over 40 years to a fine lady, and I appreciate her so much. And there's no hate from my heart today, but I just want to say that I stand upon the Word of God. I believe the Word of God, how that the Lord teaches us to live, and it's the rule and guide of my faith and my life. And I just thank the commissioners for your attention, and I ask that you vote against a domestic policy issue or policy tonight. And thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Fox. Yes, sir. And in the back, blue shirt, you can come on up. Be next.
Commissioner Gant, County Commissioners, my name is Stan Taylor. I'm a Nashville City resident and a local insurance agent, speaking on behalf of the conservative voice in this matter of recognizing domestic partnerships within the perimeters of the proposed policy of domestic partnership benefit coverage. It appears quite underhanded of the authors of this document to simply sidestep around the recently amended state constitution banning same-sex marriage. The implication of this proposed policy is obvious, that other than the term marriage, the liberal crowd is pressing for all the rights, benefits, and privileges traditionally preserved for one man and one woman. Even with the obvious attacks on our traditional and harmonious values aside, the fiscal implications must be considered. If we open the door, then we are poised, like the city of Asheville, to see the premium rate increases by reason of the added exposures by which the taxpayers of Buncombe County will have to eventually shoulder. Further, the affidavit of domestic partnership is not foolproof and may well be subject to dishonesty and abuse by the applicants. Seeing that the economy is still very sensitive and that we are also experiencing oftentimes unfair property reevaluations at this time, we move the Commission to strike the domestic partnership language or at least table it for further review of fiscal and legal ramifications.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yes, sir. And in the back, yes, ma'am, you'll come on.
My name's Cody Sturgill. I'm the pastor of Boiling Springs Baptist Church in Fletcher. My house is about 200 yards into Henderson County, but my church and my church family meet and worship in Buncombe County. And I want to just speak to you today, Commission. My purpose in being here today is to ask you to vote against the domestic partnership benefit coverage. I'm afraid this policy puts the county at a liability for a lawsuit. I'm afraid this policy puts an unnecessary financial liability on the county. And I believe this policy is unnecessary. Primarily, though, my case to you is this. The family is a wonderful God-ordained organization with marriage between one man and one woman at its very core. A study of social data will affirm that children by far do better in a home where both mom and dad are present. Yet it seems that in the name of equality, a little piece at a time, we are degrading the importance of marriage and family. I hold in my hand today two policies. I am very much for the one, and thank you, Council, for making it part of our county's policy. I'm very much for respectful workplace policy. I believe it's a step towards something I desire very strongly for all people and employees of Buncombe County. A safe, supportive, and inclusive work environment is great, and these policies will benefit every person in our county and especially our employees. But the second, though I am for the well-being of all people, regardless of their beliefs and lifestyles, awards domestic partnerships, either homosexual or heterosexual, the same benefits of marriage. Marriage benefits offer award to people who are staying true to the greatest institution of all, marriage. Marriage is an institution that deserves reward. It is a historical fact that as a state, North Carolina has exalted the marriage relationship and gives benefit to those who will raise children and live within the confines of marriage. To give domestic partners the same benefit is to degrade marriage. Council, I'm certain that a vote for this policy is just one more negative blow against marriage, and urge you to vote against this unnecessary policy.
Thank you, Reverend. Yes, sir. And blue shirt, third row. Jasmine, you can, if you'll move down one, and we'll put you. And then, who wants to speak after this gentleman? Next to the post, blue shirt. Either one of you, whoever gets up first. How about you come up after him? You speak after the gentleman with the coat and tie. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Hey, my name is Patrick Summers, and I live in West Asheville. I, too, am terrified of speaking in front of people, so I apologize.
It's okay.
I just wanted to start out by saying, when someone starts a conversation by saying no hate, it's kind of like starting a conversation by saying no offense. Whatever you say afterwards is going to be hateful, and that's kind of what I've been feeling this evening. I wanted to bring this back away from a religious conversation and back to an equity conversation. This is about the fact that we have employees who are not getting the same benefits as their straight counterparts, and it's about providing equity to everyone who is employed by Buncombe County. So This isn't about religion. This is not about marriage. This is about making sure that the most people can get insured. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Yes, Jasmine. Yes, ma'am. And then you'll be after the gentleman in the coat and tie. Who wants to speak after? Let's just do this. I'm keep on interrupting people. Why don't we line up against the wall? Everybody wants to speak. Just line up, and we'll take you in the order you line up. I should have done that to begin with. My apologies. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Reverend Jasmine Beach Fryar. I'm a resident of Asheville. I'm also the director of the Campaign for Southern Equality, which works for LGBT rights. I want, first of all, to take a moment to recognize and thank the members of this committee who have spent, it sounds like, tireless hours looking very closely at these questions, and who I think really point the way forward on this. They were asked a simple question, which is, are employees being treated equally? And the answer, it sounds like, is simple, no, and they proposed a solution for that, which I hope you will vote to support tonight. I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit by sharing a little of the perspective of LGBT people in Buncombe County, not that I speak on behalf of all of us, but stories that I do hear in our work. And what has been running through my mind this evening is the stories of Buncombe County employees who are LGBT themselves and who have been living without these benefits, and who have also been living with an implicit understanding of what it means when your employer does not provide equal benefits. The county has an opportunity to correct that in the name of equity and to live into the values that I think you do a beautiful job of articulating. Anyone who lives in this county encounters county employees in a whole range of ways, and I would like to think that people who are literally in some cases putting their lives on the line for our community would know that the county has their back and their family's back. Beyond that, though, I'm proud to see the county considering adopting a policy that is in line with best practices in the private sector and increasingly in the public sector. The majority of Fortune 500 companies offer domestic partner benefits because it's a proven tool for recruiting and retaining a qualified workforce. In addition to that, if Buncombe County were to pass this measure, it would become the 4th county in North Carolina to do so. There's clear precedent for doing so, and there's also clear and solid legal ground for it being legal to do so in the context of Amendment 1 having passed a year ago. The School of Government issued a very informative report on that we'd be happy to share if there's any questions on that point. In closing, I would like to make one very specific and somewhat wonky proposal, which I hope you will consider. I know the committee's very closely considered the eligibility criteria. I hope the commission might consider one minor revision or potential revision to that, specifically regarding the terms of the domestic partnership agreement stipulating that a couple needs to document the equal division of their assets. That is not a criteria that's used in marriage, although it is used in the dissolution of marriage, but does not use to refer to the active term of a relationship. So I would urge you to consider that once you are in the weeds of this, perhaps post-implementation of it during a review period. In closing, though, in big picture, I would urge you to vote for this and would again thank the committee for their obviously hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beach. Yes, sir. Front row.
My name's Gil Morgan. I've lived in Buncombe County for 41 years. And I'd like to address this just from a standpoint of business practicality. All other issues aside, I'm a small business owner, and I took the plunge in 1994 to risk everything I had to live the American dream. Got to a point in 2006 where I had to let my insurance go. Had carried insurance from my employees through Blue Cross Blue Shield for all those years, and finally got the oldest employee I had, finally was able to get on Social Security so that they could have coverage for the wife that was on dialysis, had diabetes. And I say this respectfully, that I paid my taxes in Buncombe County for these years. I haven't had insurance for nearly 7 years now. That's my choice. I'm not going to lay it on these people. People that choose not to get married should not be entitled to the same benefits that a married couple should have. This country was built on those foundations, Judeo-Christian values. Whether a person likes it or not, our Constitution was set up on those values. And to go aside from that, it's worked for America for all these years. We've been a great nation. We've allowed people to fulfill their dreams, to do the things that they wanted to do, to risk everything, to work 80-hour weeks, and either make it or not make it under God. So I'm not going to put my values on other people. They make a choice. They come to work for Buncombe County doesn't furnish insurance for them, get married. If they can't get married, go to another state. That's not hate, that's just the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Randy Keener. I live in Asheville. I'm the pastor of the Black Mountain Independent Baptist Church, and I've lived my life in Buncombe County. And I'm grateful for the elected officials who strive to make this area a great place to live and work with proposals like the respectful workplace policy. And while I believe that this policy will encourage great work environments, I believe that the policy of domestic partnership benefit coverage will carry with it the potential to damage our county fiscally, legally, and morally. Fiscally, this policy would increase the financial burden in hard economic times. Legally, I fear that Buncombe County will be vulnerable to lawsuits by passing this policy, which would again negatively impact the taxpayers of Buncombe County. Just one of those illustrations would be with the wording of Amendment 1, which states marriage between one man and one woman is the only domestic legal union that shall be valid or recognized in this state. And it seems that we're attempting to recognize and validate a domestic union through the use of this partnership policy. And finally, the issue of morality. As a Bible-believing Christian, I'm against extending benefits outside of marriage. And that includes a man and woman who are intimately involved. The Bible tells us marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Homosexuality is condemned in Romans chapter 1. This policy undermines marriage and morality. As a pastor, I realize strong families build strong churches. As a resident of Buncombe County, I realize that strong families build strong communities. Please do not put your approval on a policy that would support immorality and harm the foundation of family, marriage, and commitment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pastor Keener. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Craig White. I am a resident of West Asheville. I'm a small business owner. And I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I actually work as a consultant and a facilitator for organizations around issues of inclusion and diversity and equity. And I see some patterns here that I just want to call to your attention. One is, I think it's obvious that we have some deep divisions and differences within our faith community. It is my profound hope and my sincere offer that anything that we can do to have a respectful dialogue around those differences, I would love to see that happen. We clearly need to, because this is not the forum to work it out. And honestly, it's not the question before you tonight. I wanted to appreciate the work of the committee. Diversity and inclusion work is hard, so thank you. And I wanted to applaud the Commission for your unanimous vote in support of dignity and respect and equity at the interpersonal level with Buncombe County employees. I think what we're seeing tonight is something that I see over and over again, which is that equity is much easier to stand for as an abstract principle than it is a practical application. Because the truth is, in sexual orientation, in race, in gender, in many forms of identity, our history in Buncombe County and in North Carolina and in the United States, our history is a history of inequity that we have to overcome through intentional action. The status quo of the policies right now is a status quo of inequity. As taxpayers, we are currently funding discrimination. So what the committee has asked you to do is to take that step towards equity. You've already made your stand for equity on an interpersonal level, and you're now being asked to make the same stand on an institutional level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Yes, sir.
My name is Philip Wilson, and I live in Weaverville, and I pastor Brown's Chapel Baptist Church. And I'd like to start off tonight to quote a verse of Scripture. The Bible says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." And then he also said, "Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say?" So we have the Word of God here tonight. Amen. And the Word of God is the final authority. And this nation was founded upon the principles of God's Word. And some have said in the newspaper, it says that it's no one's business what others choose to cohabit. And I thought the title of this was concerning the domestic partner policy. But I'm just a country boy. I just raised up in the woods, and we had a little different lingo. Where I come from, they didn't call it domestic partnership, they called it shacking up. And whether it's between a man and woman shacking up, or whether it's two men or two women shacking up, in the Word of God, God calls it sin. And God's going to judge sin one of these days, because we can look at history. We talked about history here tonight. We can look at history as the Word of God gives us history. And God has already showed what He will do to the lifestyle of sodomy. That's the union between two men, or the union between two women. And Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord burnt them up, and we want to know where the evidence of they are today is the hole in the ground is the Dead Sea, amen, where God poured out His wrath. But God is merciful, and God is gracious, and God has given us this dispensation, this day of grace. God has given men a chance to know Him, not as a God, but to know Him personally as the God through the Lord Jesus Christ. Marriage is an institution ordained and recognized by God Almighty, and He alone has the authority to set its perimeters, and He has in defining it as a union between one man and one woman. And those that choose to live contrary to this order face a disease-riddled lifestyle, and that ought to be alone enough to oppose this policy, is because the disease that it's going to beget, the hepatitis, the AIDS, and all these things that when folk go contrary to nature and God begins to pour out these diseases in judgment, then you'll see the insurance rate go up. They should not be supported with tax dollars from hard-working, God-fearing citizens. So I respectfully urge you to reject the recommended domestic partner policy. Keep in mind, you will give an account to the sovereign Lord for your decision with eternal consequences.
Thank you, Pastor Wilson. Yes, sir. Blue shirt.
My name is Andrew Sluter, and I'm in the same position as Cody Sturgill was. My ministry resides in Buncombe County, but I'm actually about a mile into Mars Hill. So, but a lot of our ministry work does involve Buncombe County. My family's in Buncombe County. I represent aunts, uncles, grandparents. They all live in Buncombe County. I think what the board is facing today is what me as a pastor, I actually started the church that Pastor Randy Keener pastors now. And I think what the board is facing today is the same thing that us as churches are facing today. We're trying to be, quote-unquote, all-inclusive, where we don't want anybody to feel neglected, but at the same time, we're trying to hold on to our core principles and beliefs that we so strongly feel. And as a church, as a pastor, as a personal experience, I had a homosexual man come to one of my church services. Was not a professing Christian, talked with him. No talk of sexual orientation was discussed. I knew he was homosexual. He knew my stand on it. But I went to visit this man in his home, and I got to sit down with him, and I figured out that he was a man just like I was a man. He had a problem in his life that I would call a sin. But that didn't mean that I treated him with any less compassion than I would somebody that maybe had a different sin. So I want everybody to understand tonight that just because I see homosexuality as a sin doesn't mean that I think it's so much worse than a man becoming drunk. I want you to understand that tonight. And for somebody to say that us Christians are being hateful just because we take a stand on what we believe is really offensive to me, because I don't want anybody to feel like they are being pushed away from a church that I would pastor. But at the same time, I don't want to compromise what I deeply hold as my religious conviction. And that's the problem that we're having. We're trying to find that fine line. You know, I look out tonight and I see not gay, lesbian, straight. Even though that is the issue, I see what Jesus said. I look up and I see the fields ripen to harvest. I see souls. I do. I see souls. And so I know that people are going to hate me for my stance, but the Bible says, marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. So that's fine. But I want to notice that Buncombe County, by passing this and supporting this, is going to make a moral decision. You're going to make a moral decision because in this, it says that people that are of blood degree of closeness that would prohibit marriage in the state of North Carolina. So what you're going to say is that closeness in blood is prohibited. We're not going to, that's wrong. If brother and sister are in love with each other, then according to the ideology of the gay, lesbian, transgender, they should be able to marry because they love each other. They want to get in a committed relationship. But you're saying that that's going to be prohibited because there's a law prohibiting that marriage. But I also want to remind you that there is also a law prohibiting same-sex marriage. So who are you to say that these brothers and sisters by blood can't get married also? That's a moral decision. You're saying, no, we're not going to let them, but we are going to bypass it and say, well, it's morally okay for same-sex couples to be married. So you, by passing this, you're going to make a moral decision that I don't want my tax dollars going to. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Sluter. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Matthew Turpin. I live in North Asheville and I attend UNC Asheville. I'm a political science major and pre-law student. I would like to ask you to vote in favor of this domestic partnership bill. This is not an issue of same-sex marriage or religion at all. This is an issue that there are people in this county that are uninsured and do not have access to basic medical coverage simply because who they love. I don't believe that's right for the government to have the right to discriminate based on that, and I would like to ask you to vote in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turpin. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gillen Murphy Kearns. I live in West Asheville. Thank you for this opportunity. I wasn't going to speak this evening, but Kathy lit a fire underneath me. This is most definitely a civil rights issue. We cannot have equality in this country when some people are more equal than others. I'd like to share a quote with you. This is from a woman who was a lifelong member of Ebenezer Baptist Church. In fact, she's buried next to it along with her husband, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. She said this in Atlanta, Georgia, November 9th, 2000. We have a lot more work to do in our common struggle against bigotry and discrimination. I say common struggle because I believe very strongly that all forms of bigotry and discrimination are equally wrong and should be opposed by right-thinking Americans everywhere. Freedom from discrimination based on sexual orientation is surely a fundamental human right in any great democracy, as much as freedom from racial, religious, gender, or ethnic discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearns. Mr. Yelton?
I'd like to suggest this is not a religious issue. I'd like to suggest this is strictly a issue of special rights, not equal rights. And why do I say that? As I look at this thing that's been written in the agenda, I wish those that are wanting domestic rights would read what you have to give up to get them. You're making all kinds of commitments. As a matter of fact, if you end a domestic relationship, you can't get in another domestic relationship unless you wait 12 months. Also, they understand the Internal Revenue Service does not consider domestic partners as dependents for income purposes, and under the IS code, they're going to be taxed for those benefits, and you don't tax heterosexual couples. Folks, the law you're passing to get rid of discrimination is discriminatory by itself, because you're discriminating against the fact that if I am living with my brother and I want to take care of him, I can't. If I want to shack up with a woman, I can't put her on my insurance if she's living in the house with me. So you're straddling a barbed wire fence, and any country boy knows what happens when you straddle a barbed wire fence. I propose to you that whoever put the agenda today together made a stupid mistake, because everybody should be treated equal in the worst place, and once you pass what you pass today, you don't have to pass anything about gays, homosexuals, heterosexuals, transsexuals. You're saying everybody's treated the same. So why do you have to pick out a certain category? I'll tell you why. Because the next thing that's going to happen is your school board is going to do the same thing. And the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have two same-sex couples teaching school, teaching your children that same-sex is okay. And I'm not against it, folks. I don't think the government does not need to stick their nose in your bedroom. That's what I honestly believe. And I got the solution for this. The solution is the employee that works for Buncombe County gets all their insurance paid for, but then they got to pay for anybody else. If it's their wife, their son, their daughter, they have to pay for it. And there is no issue then about getting involved in the morals. You're sticking your head where it doesn't go. You're addressing issues you shouldn't address. The person that works for the county, pay for their insurance. If I want to go out and insure my dog, live with my dog, let me do it. Let me do what I want to do and insure who I want to pay for. Makes more sense, gets you out of this mess that you're in, because you're in a mess. And it's going to be fun to see what happens 2 weeks from now when you start recognizing special categories of gays, and homosexuals, and transgender. When you just passed a resolution that said you're going to treat everybody the same.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Robert Sprude. I'm a resident of Asheville, North Carolina. Forgive me if I jumble this a bit. I'm not used to speaking in front of people. Palms sweating, heart racing, so I'm going to try and get this out there. But I think that we have an issue here with hypocrisy just in passing first in the workplace, treating everyone equally, but then not being able to respect their choices at home. It's saying that it's okay for you to make those choices, but we're not going to respect it as soon as you comes tax time or comes as soon as it gets hard or someone gets hurt. One fellow said that if you want marriage's privileges, you should get married. Well, these people can't. We already said no on that. We said one woman, one man. So we're pushing them up against trying to become something that we've already said they can't. We're denying them what's promised to married couples when they show the same level of dedication. When they want to get married, they try to get married, but we're saying no on that. And then when they still live together, when they still show the same level of dedication, they still can't get insurance or whatnot just because we already told them they're not married, your relationships don't mean anything. Your love, your dedication, your being together doesn't count unless you're a man and a woman, which just strikes me as disrespectful and frankly hateful. I hate to throw hate out there, but these people are already living together, are already with each other in a relationship, they're already committed. All that they're missing is the label and the rights that go along with that commitment. And I need a cigarette, so.
Thank you, Mr. Rude. Yes, sir.
Oh, my gosh.
Hang on. I'm Dennis Thurman from Candler. I think it is very commendable, Commissioners, that you want to provide an equitable and respectful workplace environment. I can't imagine that anything else is being offered in our county currently, and I'm happy to hear that that's the type of situation, by and large, that we have. But when it comes to extending benefits to domestic partners, a different threshold has been crossed. County governments across the United States, and I'm assuming Buncombe would not be much different, are challenged to provide the services promised with the budgetary constraints that are necessitated by this economy. The county cannot continue to dole out dollars to an ever-burgeoning and bloated bureaucracy. There's going to be an additional need to raise taxes, cut services, or both. And that is equality, is equal suffering for everyone under the burden of taxation and declining public services. Drowning in red ink is an injustice for everybody, regardless of sexual orientation. So at what point do we say enough is enough? And the answer comes, well, it's just always this one small thing compared to the size of our budget. And that's usually the answer given, but I'm telling you, enough small holes will sink a ship. You don't have to have a gash the size of the one that the iceberg did a number on the Titanic to bring the ship down. There's going to be someday the straw that breaks the camel's back. Have we even addressed the issue of who's going to oversee these additional administrative details? Who's going to manage that? Are the same people going to continue to have their workload increased to supervise this? Will we need to hire additional administrative or clerical help? I've not heard anything about that. And also, the much ballyhooed Affordable Health Care Act is promised to take care of America's health care crisis. The uninsured will be insured. So what's the urgency of providing benefits out of the county funds when this national health care plan will supposedly fix things? Do we have doubts about that? No one's denying the right of anyone to purchase insurance. The only question is how far we extend benefits beyond the current levels, and can we sustain them? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Aaron Sarver. I live in Asheville. I'd like to thank the commissioners for listening to so many folks. I'd like to thank the Diversity Committee for their recommendation that domestic partner benefits be passed. In my view, this is a no-brainer. If you want to follow best practices in the private sector, you need to pass this. A majority of Fortune 500 companies are very vocal about offering these kind of benefits because you simply have to do it to attract the best employees. We know here in Buncombe County, Mission has already done that. Why? Because it's good business. So as a taxpayer in Buncombe County, I ask that the commissioners follow good business practices by passing this policy.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. My name is Lindsay Crumbly. I'm a resident of East Asheville, and I have been a Buncombe County resident for over 6 years. I would like to begin by saying that I am queer. I have been my entire life. There's no changing that. And after all, my mother always said, why fix something that isn't broken? I'm 24 years old, and I work in mental health. I literally put my life in danger every day that I step into a residence, and I wouldn't change that. What I would change, however, is the discrimination I face as an unmarried adult. I assure you that I earned my right to my benefits, and I would go so far as to say I earned the right of my partner to have the same. I'm in love with someone who identifies as transgender, meaning it is likely we will never be married. However, the God I believe in is a God of love. My love is good enough for him, and it should be good enough for my county. I beg you, in order to be representational of the county I love and live in, to approve and adopt this policy. My partner and I will gladly pay to see this equality come to life. And after all, we need to take care of our people over our parks.
Thank you, Ms. Crumley. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Chase Kuhn. I live in East Asheville, and I grew up in a strict Christian Seventh-day Adventist home. I can't express to you how much this is not a religious issue, but a civil rights issue. I am transgendered and a local LGBTQIA activist. I have not been insured my entire life, and I will probably spend the rest of my life paying off my hospital bills due to external circumstances. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I'm human, and if I have the opportunity to be insured, even if it's through my partner, let me be able to share the equal rights that I deserve. I urge you to pass this. I keep hearing people say that they don't want their tax dollars to go towards this. Well, you know, I work and I pay my taxes as well. I help you, allow me to help myself, and allow me to take care of my family.
Thank you, Ms. Goon. Yes.
My name is Catherine Cartledge, and I've lived in Asheville, Buncombe County since 1982. And I wasn't going to talk tonight either. I don't have anything prepared, but I just can't leave without saying something because my heart is broken. My partner and I, we've been together for over 31 years. And we have all the documentation in the world. I've been to every soccer game in elementary school and high school. And as far as there was one person that said, what happens to these kids, what happens to our kids is our oldest daughter is a physician, and our other daughter has taught 13 years at Carolina Day School. So that's what happened to our kids. And what's happening to our grandchildren, we have 4, and they're absolutely beautiful, and they're going to grow up to be loving and inclusive and wonderful children. But I just, you know, I'm not unique. There's thousands of relationships out there of men and women, same-sex couples who have lived in committed relationships for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, or like myself, over 31 years. And, you know, it just makes sense to us that if I'm working in this desk and there's somebody working in that desk, and because they're married, they get insurance, and I'm on this desk and I don't get any for my partner of 31 years because we're a same-sex couple. But we're a same-sex couple who live in this county, who pay taxes, who have raised good children, who are raising grandchildren, who have paid all of our taxes, all of them, and just are asking to be treated with the same respect as human beings and citizens. I mean, we are human beings and citizens who are asking for equal treatment. This desk gets insurance, that desk gets insurance. If one does and one doesn't, it's different. So it's, you know, it seems so simple to us who live in our shoes, my shoes, you know, I'm a minister too. I'm a minister myself with UCC, and I don't get it.
Thank you, Reverend Carl. Mr. Ditmore?
I'm Alan Ditmore of Old 20 in Leicester. I didn't want to complicate matters with third options, but Don Yelton did it for me, and I support his option as better than either of the options before you. And that's a problem, though, because a no vote doesn't get us Don's option, which was no dependent benefits at all, and maybe raise pay so they can afford, you know, so those who have dependents can afford them. But, you know, use the money on pay instead of benefits. Although he didn't say that, I did. But the problem is a no vote, you know, voting no doesn't get us to Yelton's position. Voting no keeps us with current policy, and current policy is discriminatory. We have 2 policies that aren't discriminatory, the yes vote and Yelton's proposal. And actually, I would still be discriminated against under either policy because I'm single. I have no dependents. I'm single and childless, no dependents. If you subsidize any dependents that I can't take advantage of, then I, as a single, am still discriminated against, or would be if I worked for the county. So why don't we vote yes? So the problem is that if you vote yes and you just change the policy, then it's off the agenda for a while. Okay, but it doesn't have to be. You can address the policy. You can vote yes, change the policy, and address the policy again, 2 weeks from now. It doesn't have to be off the agenda. So why don't we vote yes, get the domestic partner benefits, and then put Don's policy on the agenda and vote yes again, change the agenda twice. That's what I'm really for. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Denmore. Ms. Wilson?
I think most of you may be familiar with me. I'm Susan Wilson. I live in Buncombe County, north of Weaverville. And my partner and I have been paying Buncombe County taxes since 1991, either in the form of sales tax, property tax, vehicle tax, or just tax. Taxes that come back from the federal government, that come back from the state government. We have 2 children, both of whom are married to opposite-sex partners. We have 4 adopted grandchildren and a 5th biological grandchild on the way. Our children turned out great, just like Elizabeth Eve's and Catherine McCartledge's. The only illnesses that my partner and I have had to struggle through with each other are a variety of broken bones and some pretty nasty cancer scares. Luckily, those cancer scares were just that, a scare. Because if they'd been any more, we would have been unable to pay for them because we didn't have insurance. As it was, it took us quite a while to pay off our medical bills. I have also been an employee of this county, and as an employee of this county, I was unable to add my partner, whom I married here in Buncombe County, but it's not considered legal. We've had a renewal of vows, but it's not considered legal. In any way that you can think of, we have shown our commitment. So I'm asking you to vote yes, but I'm asking for one other thing. I think I as a domestic attorney, can say this in all honesty. I've never seen an agreement that required equal shares of economics. There's a difference between equal shares and equitable shares. And that's where the problem lies. So I would ask for that to be changed. But other than that, please honor us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Any other public comment tonight? If not, I will declare the public comment closed at 7:15. It's the pleasure of our commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion in support of adoption of the County of Buncombe policy of domestic partnership benefit coverage as recommended by the committee that brought the proposal forward. I would again like to thank all the members of the committee who worked on this over the past months. These are obviously tough issues, and to get people together and think about these issues and what they mean for Buncombe County and our role in the community, and to actually arrive at a consensus recommendation is very commendable. And the policies are well thought out. So thank you all for your work on this and bringing these recommendations forward. I also want to thank everybody who came to the meeting tonight and who spoke on the issue, on all sides of the issue. The issues we're talking about tonight obviously speak deeply to people from many different perspectives. And I believe that everyone who spoke tonight, although there were many differing views represented tonight, come from what each of us believes is the best thing for the future of our community and our families and our country. Although we arrive at very different conclusions, I think everyone is sincerely expressing their views about what is the best thing for our future. I believe that I'm supportive of this proposal because I believe that people who are the public employees of Buncombe County who do equal work should receive equal benefits and compensation for doing their job. As a very simple matter, I believe that is it would be wrong to do other than that, regardless of how people might feel about larger moral issues around these issues. For folks who come and do their job every day to be compensated differently is just not right. I also believe that it is not the role of government to tell two consenting American adults who have decided to spend their lives together that they are not legally allowed to do that in our country. But that is not something that this governing body can have any jurisdiction over. The day that the state of North Carolina or the United States of America decides that two adults who decide that they want to spend their lives together can do that in the way that the rest of us take for granted all the time, then local governments like Buncombe County will not have to come up with individualized local policy solutions to address these matters. But until that day comes, we have to think about what we can do. And while we cannot address these larger societal issues, we can decide how we're going to treat the public employees of Buncombe County. And I believe we should treat them with equality. And for those reasons, I support this proposal. Thank you.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Newman. Is there a second?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
We've heard some very passionate and strong comments from both sides of this issue tonight. I've heard from people on both sides that I know and respect. What I would like to say is I don't think any of us sit up here in judgment of anyone, but we're each elected by our respective districts. We each have a responsibility to those districts, and we each try to, as best we can, and it's often difficult, but we try to reflect the desires and the will of those people in that district. Thank you.
Thank you. I will second the motion and share just a very few brief comments myself. I'll join the loving of the committee. Y'all did a really amazing job. You did a great service for our county as an employer. You did a great service to your coworkers. And you did a great service for all of us that sit here to adopt a policy. So thank you for all of those. The conversations, I can only imagine what happened, and and I'm sure there was some sleepless nights in the middle of it too. So it's not easy stuff. It's hard stuff that y'all did. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to say that I believe everybody on this desk cares very deeply and in the deepest part of their heart about all the employees. I also want to express my gratitude to each one of you for, as my colleagues, the way that you have engaged all opinions and shown civility, and maybe we're like demonstrating the respectful workplace out here, but so that is important in these days, and I wanted to articulate that I'm grateful for that civility and respect. Finally, I'm trying to think of my first descriptor. I am proud is probably not what I'm going for here in terms of as part of being an employer. I feel that this is smart, and I think that it is right to attract a good workforce, to retain a good workforce, to send a message that of where we the atmosphere that we're going to put forward for people to work in, but also the compensation, because that makes us competitive. That makes us an anchor institution. So as someone that's also has an employer role, be it a different one than typically, that I, as part of that employer role, I think y'all have done a bang-up job, and I am excited about this policy for what it's going to do for our economic development here too, because this sends a strong message to the best and the brightest, and that's what we want. As a policymaker and someone that represents this community, this very diverse community, that also I'm thankful for everybody coming forward tonight. I am particularly thankful for the people that shared from their personal experiences it was hard to hear some of the things. It was hard for me, and I'm not even in the same situation. So I appreciate your bravery. And finally, I've talked to, I think the people that I'm the most grateful to in arriving at this decision, and also the most moved by, have been the hardworking employees of Buncombe County. I've talked to a lot of y'all over the last 6 days, frantically, to try to understand the implication of this policy on your life and what that would be. And several said, this is a life changer for me and my family. This changes my life because of my children, because of my partner, and that's not a special. That's just being equal. And this is maybe one of the proudest days that I've had as an elected official in 11 years, because this is about equality and fairness and human rights. And I'm proud to be supportive of a policy that will say that strongly to all our employees.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other comment, Commissioner Fryar?
I'm a little different on this issue. We're not a business. We sell nothing. We take money from the people of Buncombe County to run this county. I saw a little gentleman over at the tax office, probably in his late 70s. Walked in, asked Mr. Roberts. I was speaking to Mr. Roberts. He said, I need to talk to someone because my wife's in the hospital, and I'm going to try to have set up payments to pay my taxes on my home. Okay. Here a man wants to stay in his home, an older gentleman. His wife's in the hospital. He don't want to go live somewhere else, and we're going to take his tax dollars to do something in this form. I can't do that. I stood down there and I took an oath. I'm not sure this is totally going to be legal if we're doing it after the original vote for the amendment. I have nothing against gays. My brother was gay. He owned Scandal's nightclub. He opened it 25 years ago. So if people don't understand that I know both sides of the issue, you're definitely wrong. 40 years ago was a long time. Back then it was really bad, people. You don't have it bad today. You're able to speak. You're able to do what you want to do. But the simple fact is, we're all people. It don't matter who we are. My brother said, he never wanted to get married, and he opened the nightclub. We both were, our fathers died when we was very young, and the fact was, he made what he made by doing that. I was in a different field. I was in racing. I've been in business for 34 years. I paid for people's employment, their insurance, my family's insurance, all the way up. I never, 34 years now, I was in business. So my brother's dead and gone. Scandals is still a good club. It was always put in for a safe place for the people. I have friends in the audience here that I'll never go against anyone, but the facts are we're always wanting something. I've got a mother-in-law that's lived with a guy for 52 years. They decided they didn't want to get married, but they never asked for anything. So, you know, she was a waitress. 50 years on her feet. She never asked anybody for a thing. So I'm sorry we're not a business. I'm sorry that it's taxpayers' money. We don't know what the budget's going to be. When you got Biltmore Forest going down 13% on their home values, we don't know if we can get revenue neutral. Am I going to be for going up on taxes on people so that we can do certain things? Nope. I ran not to do that. But the facts is I may be on the wrong side of the picture. I want everybody to have a fair shot. Everybody that works can buy insurance in most companies. Are we going to go over to Pax Tavern, Magnolias, and all these places, tell them that they're going to have to do the same thing we're doing? We're only 1,400 people. You're talking about a hospital, it's big. You talk about Home Depot, they're huge all over the country. And if we wasn't self-insured and if it was tied into regular insurance outside, then it would be, like Mr. Belcher spoke earlier, a little bit different issue. But until I know what the budget's going to be, until we go to our retreat and somebody has an idea what we're going to have for money, I cannot support anything at the present time.
Chairman Gant.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to commend the committee tremendously. When we look at it on a simple value of one person at this desk and one person at this desk, all working for Buncombe County, it should be equal, but it's not been. So to paraphrase what the Vice President said, but I'm going to clean it up a little bit, what you all did was a big deal. So thank you.
Mr. Bell?
Yes, I'd like a few things. I'm not going to try to repeat. I want to thank all of you for coming, and both sides of this difficult decision. It's emotionally charged because we all have deep values. We have deep things that shape us and move us, and we're not going to sit up here and compare our notes to yours because we've all had different things that shaped our past too. But this is not about me. This is about those that I was elected to represent. I received a call from an elderly gentleman living in Buncombe County all his life, and he was just really tore up because he paid 3 of his Social Security checks a year to pay his county taxes. I said, well, we should do something about that. You know, that's kind of the question call you get, and you're like, oh, well, what can I do about that? But these are difficult times. It has been said that about not rushing into this, about having time, about waiting. I spent most of my day trying to accomplish that because I thought it was prudent. I thought it would be a good decision. I respect all these men and women up there. They know that in just the short time we've worked together. But I am concerned about the speed at which this is being tried. I won't use the word push through because that's an offensive term. I think there could possibly be other options. Secondly, I made a promise last meeting that I would go to 2 schools, Isaac Dixon and Asheville Middle. Within 2 days, I went and toured those schools because of the heart that I have for children. We have to make some difficult decisions regarding schools. I mean, we can fill this room full of people that are very passionate and very, oh my goodness, and about children in schools, and so the emotion that drives that's very powerful. But we all are going to have to make those decisions, and none of us need to be painted that we're choosing this over this, that this person's more important than this person, that this initiative is more important than the other. It is a very difficult thing that we have to do. I too have some personal concerns regarding, and professional concerns regarding some of the language that is in here. I'm not an attorney. I have spoken with, attorneys regarding some of it. And I was telling one of the commissioners I have 3 hats. I have my hat, I have my constituent's hat, and I have a board hat. Mm-hmm. And so there's part of me, when I put my board hat on, that I'm concerned about the way some of these contracts are written. I am concerned about that. But and then finally, my constituents would not want me to vote for this, so I'm going to have to vote against it. But this is very difficult. It's emotionally charged. You know, we should be respectful to each other, but I would encourage, you know, spending more time in trying to find options during this difficult time, and not making it a situation where we're trying to choose this person over that person and pit this person against that person. But I do thank all of you for your hard work. I thank you for all of your opinions tonight too, very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Belcher. I guess I'm last up. I'm going to tell you something that I'm not proud of, but everything we did in the workplace policy and everything we're trying to do here, I've been on the end of it where I discriminated against people. Growing up, that's what I knew. I didn't like anybody that wasn't like me. And I was pretty much an equal opportunity hater. But I thought they weren't like me, they weren't good. So, thankfully, I went to a school that taught me equality and what justice is. And I'm thankful. But I've been on the other end of it in a bad way. And we have to say who we are, what we believe in, and how do we treat people that work with us and make this county work. I think, Diane, committee, I appreciate you. You've walked this tight line of being responsible, but yet trying to figure out how to do the 4 things that I asked you at the beginning to make sure everybody had access to those. And I think you've done that. I think you've done it brilliantly, and I thank you. Of course, there's some things we can always tweak, but we have to decide the basic issue first. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing, and it's the right time to do the right thing right now. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
The motion carries 4-3. Gant, Jones, Frost, and Newman for. Belcher, King, and Fryar against. We have a new policy. Diversity workshop. Lisa Eby.
I'm going to make this very quick. I just want to make sure that you guys are all aware, as well as the community, that the county and the city have come together to host a conference on realizing the benefit of a diverse and inclusive workforce. We're very lucky to have Robert Livingston come and speak to us. Some of you have had the privilege of hearing him earlier, and he is a dynamic speaker. He tells wonderful stories that are based in real research that help you to understand the importance of having differing opinions at the table and having people working together to find innovative solutions because of the different perspectives that they bring. So that's occurring on April, I want to say the 25th, yes, April 25th, and it's being hosted at the Wilma Sherrill Center at UNC Asheville. We're doing it in partnership with them as well as with the city. And so I encourage people to attend this conference. There's going to be a lot of great information. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I've been asked to announce the board appointments we have open. Asheville Buncombe Community Relations Council, 1 vacancy. Montreat Board of Adjustment, 1 vacancy, must live in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Montreat Planning and Zoning, 1 vacancy, must be in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Announcements. The next regular meeting of this commission will be April 2, beginning at 4:30 p.m. in these chambers, 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. The board will hold a retreat April 12 on Friday beginning at 1 o'clock and on Saturday, April 13, beginning at 9 o'clock on 200 College Street, first floor conference room just downstairs. Commissioner meetings can be seen on BC Charter Cable Channel 2, ATT Uverse Channel 99, and live on buncombecounty.org anytime and during the meetings. And I believe we do not have a closed session tonight. That hasn't changed, I take it.
Correct.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Vice Chair Jones. Is there a second? Second, Vice Commissioner Belcher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Adjourn. like that. I saw that. Thank you. I know, but you did a good job. Good job. Reverend, good job. Carl, we didn't see how that. Yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for coming out tonight. Good to see you. Thanks for. I know it's hard to get out there. It's funny how we have no You did a great job. Thanks for coming out. Yeah.